everyone. Welcome back to another episode with my number of Chasing Labels. Let me make sure my camera is looking directly at me. I always never know if my camera's crooked, not crooked, or anything like that. For those of you listening on the audio, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But for those of you watching the live stream, or those of you watching the replay of the live stream, or watching whenever, um, let me know if it's crooked or not, because I never know. I almost need like a second. I need a secondary opinion. I'm so unsure of everything in life. I need a secondary opinion on most things. But like I said, we are back here for another episode of Chasing Labels, spy number of Chasing Labels. This is spy number, episode number 186. I am your host, Andrew Cabral, and we are back here once again, this time on our usually scheduled day of Monday. The last couple of episodes have been on Tuesdays, and just to give me a little extra day to go over some of the announcements that have happened in the world of boutique labels over the previous 2 weeks, because that is what we do here on Chasing Labels. We take the last 2 weeks of announcements in the world of boutique labels for your home video entertainment, and we talk about them. We don't talk about all of them. We talk about many of the ones that basically I'm interested in adding to my collection at some point. You may be interested in adding to your collection at some point, or things I just find interesting in general. Um, and what is interesting about this episode is not much to talk about. There's not much to talk about over the last month or so. I feel like there's been so much to talk about. The first yeah, I would say 2 months of the year have just been jam packed with announcements after announcements, or so much I feel has happened in the last 2 months for stuff we talk about here on Chasing Labels. Whereas the last 2 weeks, not much to go with. For those of you checking out the notes in here on YouTube in the description below, you'll notice that all we really have to talk about this time, and we will probably be going through it in that in that order, is Warner Archive. Radiance Films had their announcements. We were talking about Kino, some individual releases, I think like one or two, maybe. And then Criterion announced their June titles today, actually this afternoon. So it didn't give me obviously any time at all to go over the movies that I have not seen from that slate. But luckily, I've seen like 5 out of 9 of them. So at least I'm batting over 500, if you will, if you want to use baseball terms. But before we get into all that, there are some comments here. JB44, one of our returning chasers, I guess you could say, says, "Greetings, chasers." Yep, I'm glad someone's using it. trying to bring it back, trying to bring it to the lexicon. Chasers. JB also says, "Looks good from here." Good. That's good to know. I never, yeah, like I said, I never know the angle. I never know the height. You always want to get the good eye line, but I also don't know, like, how wide is the camera? You know what I mean? It's not. I act like I haven't been doing this for 5 years. What's it? I'm so unsure of myself. You act like you haven't been doing this for 5 years. Coincidentally, I believe it is the 5 year anniversary of Chasing Labels this month, this calendar month, around this time. I'd have to go back into the archives. I mean, I hate to do that while I'm on camera because I have to go to let's see, the podcast app on my phone and look at Chasing Labels and see if I can find our first episode. If I scroll all the way back, let's see, I believe it was in March of, let's see, there's all kinds of stuff here. Yeah, I'd have to scroll way, way back. And I'll do that really quickly while I vamp. Oh, luckily I scrolled down fast enough. All right, I'm in the top 10, number 1. So our first, all right, that's the Cinema Discovery Project. I want to go to Chasing Labels. So Cinema Discovery Project was our podcast before Chasing Labels that we did from like 2018 to 2021. So we did that well into the COVID pandemic. But here we go. Here's Chasing Labels. So our first episode of Chasing Labels, episode number 1, which is only in podcast form, only in audio form, uh, premiered on 3/21/21. So March 21st of 2021 was our first episode of Chasing Labels. So this month will be the 5-year anniversary of that. Time flies. Time flies. I can't even think of 2021 at this point. That time period, such a blur, such a blur. But anywho, um, let's get into a little bit of a collection update. I actually got some things in the mail today, but something I picked up last week, which is a recent new release and actually a new movie came out last year, is the movie Hamnet. This is the 4K UHD release of the movie Hamnet. This is the most recent film from one of my favorite contemporary directors in Chloe Zhao. This is her film, and I've always been a big fan of Chloe Zhao. I've loved her movies since I think her first movie that I saw was The Rider, which came out 2017, somewhere around there. But of course, she did. Oh, what was it? Oh, her first film. I actually have it. I think it's actually behind me on the shelf. Is it The Songs My Brother Taught Me? It's a really great film. It's got a Blu-ray release from Kino, and it's a really great film. Let's see. Yes, Songs My Brother Taught Me from 2015. That was Chloe Zhao's first film. And then she did The Rider, and then she did, I think she did Nomadland after that. Let me see. Yeah, she did The Rider, then Nomadland, which won Best Picture. She won Best Director. Frances McDormand won Best Actress. Coincidentally, Hamnet last night was the Oscars. Hamnet won uh, Best Lead Actress for Jessie Buckley, who is astonishing in this film. This film was actually one of my top 10 favorites of last year. I think it was top 5, top 6. It was in there. It was really, really high. I really like this movie a lot. For those of you who have not seen this, this is this is actually based on a book called Hamnet, a novel, actually, a novel, it's fiction, where Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal play William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes, and they go through a tragedy in their life in this movie, and that tragedy inspires William Shakespeare to write Hamlet. But that's not really quite what the movie is about. The movie is more from the perspective of Jessie Buckley's character and her dealing with grief and loss and trauma as a mother. And the movie is not an upper. It's quite, excuse me. It is quite harrowing and very depressing. And like I said, dealing with heavy, heavy subjects. And one of my favorites of last year. So I got this. I got this recently. Where am I going to put this? Put this next to me. Um, a couple of things that came in recently is I got One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the 4K UHD release that came out last year for its 50th anniversary. Last year was the 50th anniversary of the release of this. I'll be honest, quintessential classic. It really is. This is one of Warner Brothers' catalog releases, and Warner Brothers. I've said this relatively over and over again. Maybe not here on Chasing Labels, or perhaps just out loud in general to myself. Um, they do really, really great work with restoring and putting out their back catalog titles for the most part. And by for the most part, I just like to leave that caveat open just in case there are releases out there that are not very good. But the ones I've seen look really nice. Rebel Without a Cause, um, uh, let's see, Cool Hand Luke was another one. Casablanca is another one. The Maltese Falcon they put out as a catalog release themselves. They also put out, I want to say, North by Northwest was the great Hitchcock film starring Cary Grant. That looked amazing, and I literally just got this in the mail today, so I'm probably going to give this a watch. Maybe even tonight after Chasing Labels, I may give this a watch. Another catalog title from Warner Bros. That I picked up that came out last year, and this was a long-awaited release. Is Amadeus. Now, this is only the director's cut. No, this is only the theatrical cut. Sorry. What I wanted to say is that the director's cut has been the only one that's been available in high definition over the years. They put out the director's cut on Blu-ray several years ago. It was available on DVD. The only way to get the theatrical cut on disc for Amadeus was there was an old snapper case DVD put out by Warner Brothers. That was it. There was no Blu-ray, and for many, many years, fans wanted the theatrical cut of Amadeus. And it was rumored for many years that Criterion was going to put it out. I think that was the rumor now for the last decade, actually. And obviously, it never happened. So Warner Brothers put this release out themselves, and this release is interesting because um Larry Karaszewski, who many of you may know from the online movie space, he's part of the Academy. He's a writer, filmmaker. He's a movie person. He's a movie person. He's actually been a guest here on Chasing Labels once. Super nice dude. Um, excuse me. He helped with the restoration of this movie because they had to go back and give this movie a proper restoration, and it looks very, very good on 4K. Now, the one big issue with Warner Brothers and with a lot of mainstream studios putting out their catalog titles now, or even just their movies in general, they only give you the 4K UHD disc. They don't give you the accompanying Blu-ray. So if you don't have 4K capabilities, obviously I wouldn't suggest buying these. But if you're someone like me and kind of wants everything in one package, you want the movie on Blu-ray, you want the movie on 4K, you want to get the most out of it, right? Um, these releases kind of shortchange you on that, unfortunately. But they look very good. For special features, not a lot. That's also another kind of issue. These are not boutique releases. We talk about boutique releases here on Chasing Labels. That's when you get the deep uh extras packages and the commentaries and all that kind of stuff. Not so much for these. Not so much for these. Amadeus, there's the making of a masterpiece, celebrate 40 years of Amadeus in this exclusive featurette. So that's new. And then there is an older, like hour-long making of feature, uh, special feature on here. And for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there is conversations on cuckoo, group therapy, and movie making memories, completely cuckoo featurette, and deleted scenes. Now, I've owned One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on DVD, on a 2-disc DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray, and now I own it on 4K. This is one of the best movies of the 70s. It's one of the best movies of the 70s. Jack Nicholson won an Oscar for that film. Michael Douglas is a producer on that. Danny DeVito's in the movie. Christopher Lloyd's in the movie. It's really good, and it's based on a book too, and the book is really, really good. Let me grab some other things here while I'm just rambling like a rambling man. Some other things I picked up. Actually, this just came in the mail today as well. 2 Arrow releases. I bought these from OrbitDVD.com of the 4K UHD of Spaceballs. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you at home have Spaceballs in your collections in some way, shape, or form. I own it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray, and now I own it on 4K. And several years ago, there was a 4K put out by Kino Lorber, and I think everybody has scooped that up. I think everyone that I see online, everyone in our movie space, collector space, has that release. And I've been wanting it for years, but I've been trying to get it with the slipcover. And that slipcover is impossible to get unless you want to, throw down some cash. But I saw that Arrow was putting it out, and I'm like, I'm going to buy it now. I'm going to get it now. And I bought the 4K UHD release of Spaceballs put out by Arrow Video. And I believe it comes with all of the special features from that Kino release. I talked about this when this was announced, so I always forget what I say here on Chasing Labels, but this has a plethora of special features, and I always say I want to do an individual review of some of these releases, and I really should. I really should do it for Spaceballs. And then a great release from last year that everybody is scooped up. And I heard that this one is now kind of out of print. Not out of print, but I don't think you can get any more from like from Arrow or the distributor for like online retailers and stuff. Basically, Jesse from Diabolic DVD said that this is pretty much going out of print, and that is In the Mouth of Madness, the 4K UHD limited edition from Arrow Video. Now, this is the John Carpenter film. I forget when this came out. 1995? Yes, 1995. This came out, and this is a fascinating movie. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when I have my friend Scott Saslow do come on and talk about his work because he worked on the design and stuff for this release. So we'll probably talk about that movie then. But to me, this is an interesting movie because to me, this is like the best Stephen King adaptation of something that's not a Stephen King adaptation. I don't know why. It just feels like that. It's got that vibe. This has a plethora of special features on it. Really nice limited edition deluxe release from Arrow. Like we all know. It's got the booklet, it's got the poster, it's got the art cards, it's got all the good stuff. So if you've been looking to get this, I would pick this up as soon as possible before it does indeed go out of print from online retailers and you've got to spend some extra cash on eBay for it or other places. So let me check and see if that is it. I always forget what I get. Oh, I don't think I talked about this last time. Peking Opera Blues, another Arrow 4K UHD release. I picked this up. Like I've said here on Chasing Labels many times, I am going to be picking up the 1980s Hong Kong films that have been coming out lately on 4K, but I've been waiting for the Arrow releases. I believe this is it this month. I think this month Hard Boiled is coming out, so I've got to make sure I get that because that's going to be a hot seller. And then I think next month will be The Killer or something like that. It's either one way or the other. Those two are coming out within the next little while, so I've got to get those. Oh, and I did partake in a sale. So I told you all recently that Barnes and Noble was having a 50% off sale for Radiance films, and I bought 5 titles. I bought Misunderstood. I bought that there. Chow Panton. I talked about all of these movies when they were originally announced, so I've gone in depth on all of these, and on all of these releases as well. This is Viva la Muerta, and these are all Blu-ray releases. Let's see. This is 18 Years in Prison, a film by Taikato. And then last here is Allons Unfound, and this is a movie directed by Paolo and Vittorio Taviani, and this stars Marcello Mastroianni, who many people probably know from various Italian films. He was one of those iconic Italian filmmaker actors of his time. So yeah, I picked up all of these Radiance releases. I figured, to me, when it comes to Radiance, you got to get them while they're on sale. That's when you maximize the value. Not that they're not, good releases in general, but when you can save money, save money. If that's a good strategy to have if you're collecting anything. If you're collecting movies, if you're collecting comic books, if you're collecting books, if you're collecting vinyl, if you're collecting CDs, cassettes, baseball cards, Pokemon cards, whatever you're collecting, if you can save money, why not? Why not? So now that is everything. Now we can get into what we get into here on Chasing Labels as I move everything back to where everything should be. Now there it is. Let me move some things back to where they should be. I like to have things not organized, but at least within eyesight so that I know where things are supposed to be. So let me just put these here for now, organize things later. So let's get into what we get into here on Chasing Labels after that 20-minute interlude. We will start off, like I said, we will in relative order of what the notes say down below with Warner Archive's April releases. Now, let's see. We have quite a few releases here. No animation, no television stuff. Unfortunately, for those of you who have been fans of their animation stuff, like I have with the Huckleberry Hound Show and Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, Looney Tunes Vault Collection Volume 2 is actually coming out this month. I'm super excited for that. I've got to put in an order for that as well. But April releases for Warner Archive are as follows. Private Benjamin from 1980, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing from 1932, Crack Up from 1946, King Richard and the Crusaders from 1954, Captains Courageous from 1937, Aerosmith from 1931, George Stevens' A Filmmaker's Journey from 1984, and Monogram Matinee Volume 2. Okay, so I think the one that I'm most excited for, and I'm actually happy they're finally doing it, is Private Benjamin. Private Benjamin is the movie starring Goldie Hawn. It's a movie that's only been on DVD, and it's been and the DVD has been in the wrong aspect ratio. I think it was in like at 133 to 1. At least the DVD that I have, which I can't I wanted to find it for this episode to kind of do a little comparison, but I couldn't find it. I don't know. It's not in my drama section, and it's not in my comedy section, which it should be, because Private Benjamin's a comedy. Yeah, I'm looking over and it's not there, and I'm thinking maybe I took it out and put it someplace else, but I don't know where. Either way, I'm gonna be getting this Blu-ray. So, if you've not seen Private Benjamin, let me read the description for you. Private Benjamin, immovable object is Private Benjamin's immovable object is pampered Judy Benjamin, a wedding night widow. The irresistible force is a 3-year expense paid hitch in the U.S. Army. What's Judy doing in combat boots and fatigue? Our recruiter seductively describes today's new army, and gullible Judy takes the bait. Academy Award winner Goldie Hawn is private first class in her Oscar nominated role of Judy, a fish out of water coming of age via the rigors of basic training and a European assignment. This box office champion is also highlighted by a top notch supporting cast, including Robert Webber, Mary Kay plays Albert Brooks, and Eileen Brennan. Also an Oscar nominee and Emmy winner for the TV series this this movie inspired. Now meticulously remastered from 4K scans of the original camera negative, Private Benjamin is ready to return to duty as one of the screen's most beloved comedies. Yeah, Private Benjamin is a very beloved comedy starring Goldie Hawn. Now, I am a bit of a Goldie Hawn novice. I wasn't alive during when this movie came out, or during really Goldie Hawn's, rise to stardom, which I believe would be the late 70s and 1980s. Um, so I'm kind of going back and watching old Goldie Hawn films. There's Overboard. That's another one. Overboard actually has two Blu-ray releases. One from Severin. Most recent one is from Severin Films, and yeah, that's kind of fascinating. But this release has a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, 2 episodes of the Private Benjamin TV series. Now that would be nice if they would put that out on Blu-ray. That would be a nice surprise. You know me, I'm always advocating for for TV on Blu-ray, especially classic TV on Blu-ray. That would be super, super nice. Uh, will it ever happen? Who knows? Maybe if enough people buy the Private Benjamin movie on Blu-ray, they'll put it out. They'll put out the TV series. Let me see if the TV series. Let's see if it may have a DVD. No, the TV series doesn't even have a DVD release. Okay, that's interesting. But like I said, nothing really in the way of special features. Not a big surprise. Basically, you just get the movie in 4K restoration of the movie, 2 episodes of the TV series, the theatrical trailer, and that's it. Now, the next film I want to talk about is 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. Now, this movie may intrigue some of you classic movie fans like myself, people who love the golden age of Hollywood, specifically the 1930s, because it stars a couple of people that you will definitely be familiar with. One, Spencer Tracy, and two, Betty Davis. And the movie's directed by Michael Curtiz. Michael Curtiz, who's directed so many movies, including, I got it right here, Captain Blood. He directed Captain Blood. He directed Casablanca. He directed so many movies. But he directed this movie called 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. And it's a prison film starring Spencer Tracy. So Here's the description. Academy Award winners Betty Davis and Spencer Tracy were relative newcomers to the big screen when Warner Brothers and director Michael Curtiz cast them in the moving, true drama of the relationship between a convict and the warden of the notorious Sing Sing Penitentiary, who stakes his reputation, career, and the future of the prison's inmates on the honor of a thief and murderer, betting that the man will return voluntarily to face his execution at the federal penitentiary known as the Castle on the Hudson. When hardened thief Tom Gordon, Spencer Tracy, is sentenced to serve a prison term at Sing Sing, he believes his friends will help him get out. But after some time, the incorrigible prisoner realizes that his associates on the outside are not going to help him, and under the guidance of reformist warden Paul Long, Gordon gradually becomes a model prisoner. When Gordon's girlfriend, Faye Wilson, Betty Davis, is attacked, Long grants Gordon a furlough to see her, but Gordon confronts her attacker, and this is giving away the entire plot of the movie. So I'm going to stop right there. Needless to say, this movie came out in 1932. It is a pre-code film. If you know anything about pre-code Hollywood, there is pre-code and then there's code, I guess. So pre-code Hollywood, where there was really no okay, you could get away with a lot more in movies during pre-code Hollywood era. And then there was the Hays Code that was instituted in around 1934, which instituted all kinds of rules and regulations of what you can and cannot put in a movie. So movies before that Hays Code was put in got away with a lot more. That's why I kind of like pre-code stuff. You find certain directors working during that time, like Howard Hawks, William Wellman, Michael Curtiz, several others, Fritz Lang, another one. But this movie, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, is a shorter film. That's what I love about 1930s films as well. This movie is 78 minutes long, and it's pretty concise and pretty straightforward, as you can see by that premise. Also, this premise is not exactly accurate, but whatever. You get the gist. Spencer Tracy is a criminal. He's a thief. He's he's kind of like it's a weird role for Spencer Tracy because you're not used to seeing him as like a super bad guy, unless you've seen him in he was in an adaptation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was where he plays both the Dr. Jekyll and the Hyde part. So seeing him as Hyde, I guess that would work. Even in the movie Fury, he has a bit of a dark turn in there. But his roles later on, during I would say the prime of his career, what we know him for being, basically all of his movies with Katharine Hepburn. Complete opposite of his earlier stuff here. But obviously, you're starting out, you get work where you can get work. And in this film, like I said, he's a kind of a hardened asshole criminal. He's belligerent. He's in prison. He doesn't want to listen to he doesn't, listen to the rules of the warden or of the prison. And it's a different role for him. And he seems a little bit out of place. And I think a lot of that has to do, like I said, with our preconceived notions of what we know Spencer Tracy to be as an actor later on. But sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. Now, this is interesting because this feels more like a role that would have been better suited to someone like James Cagney or even Edward G. Robinson, who were contemporaries of that time. And who had done gangster roles. Basically, they were in 1930s gangster films. This film is kind of teetering on that 1930s gangster film. It's not quite, it's not Little Caesar. It's not anything like that. But it is something that is, it's kind of a hybrid film. Like it's a prison film as well as a gangster film. And Spencer Tracy is in the movie, like I said, and Betty Davis plays his girlfriend on the outside who comes to visit him all the time. Something happens to her and he's allowed to leave the prison, and complications ensue after that. I'm just checking up something here because someone had written. Yeah. Yeah, so as I said, I was just reading something really quickly. But obviously bad podcasting on my part. But Michael Curtiz's directing is really good. It's not quite stylized, but it's sleek, it's straight to the point, it's direct, it's good. Like, he's a good director, so the movie's well directed, the acting is good, 78 minutes. 78 minutes. You're in and out, bing bang boom, it's straightforward. And it stars two people that you know and probably love. For special features and such, new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, classic WB shorts, 20,000 years for the chain gang. Um, and that goes double. Classic WB cartoons, Crosby, Columbo, and Valley. The Queen was in the parlor. So, I think we will go to Captain's Courageous, and the reason why I'm skipping to Captain's Courageous, we'll go back to the other two, the other couple of ones that are in here, but I'm going to skip to this one for now because it also stars Spencer Tracy. That's why. Uh, and this is the movie where I believe he won an Oscar for, and I have this movie on a Warner Brothers DVD that is all the way down yonder, um, on my shelf. I would dig it out, but I think it's in like a corner somewhere. Uh, so let's see. In the superb adaptation of Rudyard Kipling's poignant classic, Spencer Tracy won his first Academy Award for Best Actor as Manuel, a Portuguese fisherman who teaches human values to a millionaire's spoiled young son. In a characterization ranging from grave to jolly, mystical to courageous, this is one of Tracy's finest and most colorful roles ever. Let's see. And basically, if I remember correctly, because it's been a couple of years since I've seen this movie, um, Spencer Tracy plays a Portuguese fisherman from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Something I know relatively well. um, his Portuguese accent in this movie is terrible. It's not Portuguese. I think he was actually doing more of a like a Yiddish accent or something like that. It's not good. It's not Portuguese. Um, and needless to say, with that set that aside, his performance is very good. The movie is very good. I yeah, I really like this movie a lot. Captain's Courageous. He takes this young boy under his wing and while they're on this fishing boat on this fishing trip, not a trip, but they're working. They're all working men. This is their job. This is what they do, and he's kind of teaching him life lessons about hard work and all kinds of wisdom and things like that. It's really really good, and Spencer Tracy's great in the movie. Like I said, he won an Oscar for it. So I would yeah, I would recommend this movie to people who are very interested. I believe this is directed by Victor Fleming. Yes, directed by Victor Fleming. Lionel Barrymore is in the film. Melvin Douglas is in the film. Mickey Rooney, a very young Mickey Rooney at this point, because this movie came out. Let me see. It's in 1937. So a very young Mickey Rooney. And let's see what we have for special features and such. New 4K restoration from the best preserved elements. My guess is they don't have the original camera elements or stuff like that, or maybe not even close. Just says best preservation elements. MGM cartoons, The Wayward Pups, MGM Robert Benchley short, How to Start the Day. Leo is on the Air, Captain's Courageous radio promo, original theatrical trailer. And that's Captain's Courageous. It's a classic. To be honest, it's a classic. I would, like I said, I would recommend people check it out if you're interested in watching Spencer Tracy in one of his most well-known roles and one that he won an Oscar for. I believe he only won 2 Oscars in his career. Let me see. Actually, I want to say he won for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner posthumously. Let me see. I could be wrong on that. I'm checking IMDb right now, and I never know where they put the award stuff. They always move that thing around. Oh, here it is. Won 2 Oscars. Yes. So he won 2 Oscars. Okay. Okay, so he won 2. Not the ones I thought for. He did win. He did win for Captain's Courageous, and then he also won the next year for Boys Town. I forgot about that. Boys Town, where he played a priest, if I do recall. Now that's a movie I think needs a Blu-ray release. That does not have a Blu-ray release. Yeah, he plays a priest in that film. Now let me go back. Let's see. Let me go back to where I was before. After Private Benjamin, after 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, there's the movie Crack Up. So Crack Up is a movie starring Pat O'Brien. Came out in 1946. It's kind of a noir. Let me read the description. After a train wreck sends art critic George Steele, Pat O'Brien, into a mental tailspin, he's fired from his job at a New York art museum. Seems unjust until you learn that there is no train wreck. This relentless, nervous, gutsy film noir explores the sinister world of violence and the moneyed world of aesthetics as Steele's attempt to reconstruct what really happened leads him to murder mania and an international conspiracy that threatens the museum's masterpieces. So this movie, yeah, it is a film noir, but it's an interesting film noir because there's a mystery that's unfolding that may or may not be real, and it may or may not have happened yet. And then there's also other circumstances that may be going on outside of it that is, affecting that event as well. There's a lot of twists and turns in this. It's a little confusing. It's a little confusing. It's kind of twisting up like a pretzel in this movie called Crack Up. But at the center of it is this art curator at this art museum who is kind of, not sure of what's real and what's not, which is something that I always have gravitated towards in movies. Like I like that idea, like the bending of reality and all those kinds of things. I always really liked like that. But that's the movie Crack Up. For special features, we got a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Crime does not pay a short subject. Crime does not pay. Short subject. Purity Squad. Okay, and then this original theatrical trailer. Um, and moving on from there, we've got the movie King Richard and the Crusaders. Kind of a disappointing movie. I thought we were getting a Cecil B. DeMille epic, and that was set during the Crusades. You know what I mean? Because this movie's in CinemaScope and widescreen, and I'm like, oh, we got some good stuff brewing here. The movie looks very nice. It looks amazing. I could imagine what this Blu-ray is going to look like. It's probably going to look gorgeous. Unfortunately, the movie takes place like indoors a lot. It takes place like in close quarters with people talking a lot. So they're not really utilizing the beautiful CinemaScope widescreen, and I think they used, oh my goodness, was it watercolor or something like that? Some type of, you know, Technicolor of the time. All the studios had their own version of Technicolor, like Metro Color and all this kind of stuff. But anywho, they utilized their own version of that to make the colors pop and all that stuff, make it a spectacle. This movie did come out in the 50s, which is important to mention. Came out in 1954, so it had to come. It was during that time where movies had to compete with TV, where TVs were starting to appear in people's homes. People were staying home from the movie theaters and the cinemas to watch television. So they needed new things to get people to go to the movies. It's the same way now, where they need to come up with new ideas to get people to go to the movies so they can so Hollywood and the movie world can make money. And that's basically how widescreen was invented. It was invented as I guess you could say, a gimmick, if you will, to get people to go to the theaters. So they used, CinemaScope. Come see CinemaScope. Beautiful, beautiful picture and sound and all this kind of stuff. But back to the movie at hand, King Richard and the Crusaders. So, let me read the little blurb they've got here. It's a bit of a long one, so I'm probably going to cut it down. Let's see. With royal banners unfurled and a regal cast, King Richard and the Crusaders venture forth, bringing to the big CinemaScope screen Sir Walter Scott's 1825 classic myth in history. So this is based on an 1825, I think, novel or book, if you will. The book was called The Talisman. Okay, there's not really a talisman in the movie, but whatever. Academy Award winners Rex Harrison and George Sanders join Virginia Mayo and Lawrence Harvey in a legendary once upon a time screen spectacular of knighthood, intrigue, and far-flung fields of battle. Not a lot of battling going on in this movie, be honest with you. Richard the Lionhearted, George Sanders leads the Third Crusade intending to take the fight to the Muslim leader Saladin, who's portrayed by Rex Harrison. Elephant in the room here, people. Hollywood back in the day whitewashed all of their minority roles, whether it was people from the Middle East or people from Asia, wherever. They would whitewash their roles left and right. It's something that's happened throughout the history of Hollywood. Sometimes it even happens to this day. It even happens to this day. People are way more aware of it now, and corrections are made. But back in the 50s, Hollywood didn't care. They just simply didn't care. Um, but Rex Harrison as Saladin, and never say. I mean, we've talked about it here on Chasing Labels. I mean, there's the movie Genghis Khan with John Wayne as Genghis Khan. I mean, you can't get more ridiculous than that. Um, let's see. Rex Harrison as Saladin and never suspects that the physician who comes to the Christian camp to tend to him is Saladin himself. The wily foe is captivated by the alluring Lady Edith, Virginia Mayo, even though errant knight Kenneth Lawrence Harvey also seeks her ladyship's hand. Okay, so you kind of get it. So for those of you who don't know the plot of this those who don't know, there was a vast number of a series of crusades throughout the Middle Ages. Basically, people, knights, kings, royalty, armies, going from Europe to the Middle East in a crusade to take back the Holy Land. Usually this was spurred along by religious intent, typically Christian religious intent, Catholic religious intent. And anywho, there were many crusades, and the Third Crusade was led by Richard the Lionheart, who was a famous, somewhat mythical king of England. This is the same Richard the Lionheart from the legend of Robin Hood. So it's during that time frame. There's Richard the Lionheart, his brother John, Robin Hood. It's all from that era of myth and legend and all this kind of stuff. Anywho, Richard the Lionheart is played by George Sanders in this film. He gets attacked and basically an assassination attempt is made on him, and he survives. And part of the rest of the movie is finding out who did it and why, and there's all kind of reasons why and and intrigue and stuff like that. Anywho, and then there's also the threat of Saladin and all this kind of stuff as well. And there's a love story going on as well. This movie's kind of a jumbled mess. It's kind of a jumbled mess. And like I said, it's also a lot of time just people talking in rooms, not really utilizing the widescreen or the CinemaScope. It still looks good. And it's probably going to look amazing here on Blu-ray because it has a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Classic WB cartoons, Satan's Waitin', Buggy Bunny. I'm assuming that's a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Classic Joe McDoke short, So You Want to Be a Banker. And let's see what else we got here. Oh, we got the movie Aerosmith. And this is not based on the band Aerosmith. Not even spelled the same way. Excuse me. Still a little bit under the weather. Well, it's not so much that I'm under the weather. It's that I'm still the sickness I had before, which for those of you listening on Chasing Labels, I was struggling during the last episode throughout because I had been sick with some type of flu and whatnot. And it's been sticking around. And then now with this time of year in the Northeast, there's a rapid change of weather. We go from 30-degree days to 60-degree days on the drop of a hat, and vice versa. We go from 60 back down to 30, and right now it's up and it's going to go back down. So my body just doesn't do well with rapid weather changes. I get sick, basically. So I'm having one of those types of days. So if you hear me coughing, if you um, see me sneezing, or if my voice changes, you'll know why. And you know why. But back to Aerosmith, based on the Sinclair Lewis's 1925 Pulitzer Prize winning novel. Aerosmith is the compelling story of a man torn between two sets of values. Ronald Colman stars as Martin Aerosmith, a idealistic small town doctor and research scientist who relocates to the West Indies. His determination to end the bubonic plague epidemic there sets off a tragic series of events which force him to come to terms with his career and personal life. Okay. So I believe this is an MGM film from back in the day, or this is produced by Samuel Goldwyn. But I think this is an MGM film. Either way, this movie kind of tells the story of this doctor and science researcher who is researching vaccines. Something that's still relatively appropriate to modern times. People are still battling over vaccines and vaccine use and all kinds of stuff. That's neither here nor there. But this movie, the doctor portrayed by Ronald Colman, is like I said, he's a researcher, he's a doctor, and this movie kind of just is just showing him um, developing vaccines essentially and trying things out. And like it says, at one point he does go to the West Indies, which is down in the Caribbean, the Bahamas, with the pirates and the music and all that stuff, with the Beach Boys, and him trying out the vaccine and whatnot. And the movie's fine. His wife is portrayed by Helen Hayes. I thought she was very, very good in the movie, and their relationship to me I find to be way more interesting than the plot itself. To be honest, like I said, this movie's also a little all over the place in terms of plot. Like we go from like him being a small town Midwestern like animal doctor to like the big city where he's doing like big time research to down to the West Indies to where he's like giving handing out vaccines and then there's a whole relationship with he and his wife going on throughout the movie as well. And Ronald Colman, I think, is a really good actor. That's actually kind of what saves the movie. He's a really good actor. This movie is actually nominated for a bunch of Oscars too, a bunch of Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Screen Adaptation, Best Art and Set Direction, Best Cinematography, restored by the Library of Congress in association with the Film Foundation. This presentation of Aerosmith provides an opportunity for new generations to discover this unique and powerful classic of American cinema. Okay, it's a little overselling it, but whatever. For special features, it just has that new restoration by the Library of Congress and Film Foundation from 2023. There's a Lux Radio Theater with Spencer Tracy and Fay Ray from 1937. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here before I hit the last one. Let's see. So I've talked about Private Benjamin, talked about 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. We've talked about Crack Up. We've talked about King Richard and the Crusaders. We've talked about Captains Courageous. We've talked about Aerosmith. Let's go to Monogram Matinee, and then we'll do the big one, because the big one is actually a 4K release. Warner Archives putting out another 4K release, and that will be of George Stevens' A Filmmaker's Journey. Excuse me. So Monogram Matinee, Volume 2. The description is as follows. It's time for another Monogram Matinee. This double feature disc includes one of Monogram's rare higher budget offerings, which holds a unique place in film history. So we have Louisiana from 1947, and we have Song of the Range from 1944. Unfortunately, I couldn't find either of these movies to watch. These are kind of so obscure that you can't really find them anywhere. They're not streaming anywhere. I don't think they've been on disc before. You can't rent it anywhere. Unfortunately, I couldn't see either of these films. So, the first film, Louisiana from 1947, directed by Phil Carlson, was the semi-autobiographical story of that state's governor, Jimmy Davis, who was not only a well-liked political leader, but had also established himself as country music singer and composer. Well, he's a man of many talents, I guess, having written the famous song "You Are My Sunshine." Oh, okay, that's pretty famous. Davis played himself in the story of his life, not only in show business, but tracing his backwoods origins to his rise as a sheriff, mayor, and eventually the state's governor. Davis was in office during the filming and credited this film as integral in his reelection as the state's leader. Oh, so it was also a political thing too. Political marketing, if you will. So, Song of the Range from 1944 is the first of many monogram westerns built around the popular singing cowboy Jimmy Wakely. In this musical, oh, I've never heard this term used before. In this musical oter, Oater. Jimmy and his saddle pals are up against a gang of outlaws, but save the day with plenty of charming musical interludes along the way. With both films having vanished from distribution for decades, this new presentation, derived from 4K scans of the best surviving nitrate materials, will surely delight loyal fans of these monogram Bs. Bs being in quote. The monogram put out B movies. These are B movies. It doesn't say anything in terms of special features. I'm assuming there aren't any. That's why. I mean, it's kind of a miracle in and of itself that these two films from Monogram are actually on Blu-ray of any format. So now let's talk about the big release, the 4K release, George Stevens: A Filmmaker's Journey, 4K UHD Blu-ray. This film came out in 1984, and this is simply put, this is a documentary about the filmmaker George Stevens, directed by his son George Stevens Jr. And for those of you who know George Stevens, um, chances are you've seen this before. And if you haven't seen it and you're a fan of George Stevens' work, um, I would definitely highly recommend giving it a watch. It's very good. It's very good in the sense like it's more of a tribute to the life, the career, the legacy of George Stevens. And it's not really in depth in any way, but what's really awesome about it, from my perspective as a fan of movie history, a fan of Hollywood history, a lover of classic film, is they interview a lot of people that worked in with George Stevens in his films, worked on the production of his films, and it's going to be people you recognize. It's going to be people like Katharine Hepburn, who was in his films. It's going to be, um, I'll go over some of his. So he was in A Place in the. He directed movies that you know of: Giant, A Place in the Sun, Shane, A Vivacious Lady. They interview Jimmy Stewart when he was still alive. Um, I'm a big fan of George Stevens. I have a George Stevens collection, section in my collection, I should say. And I've got several of his work. Swing Time is a big one. That's got a Criterion Blu-ray release that I have, I believe. Let me see. He directed so many movies. Jeez. Let me go over to, let's see, because I'm going way back to, because he worked from the 20s all the way up to um actually he was a cinematographer. Hold on. I want to get his directing credits. Yeah, so he worked as a director from 1930 all the way up to, oh goodness, I want to say 1970. Yeah, because The Only Game in Town, I think, was his last film. There's some other stuff after, but that was posthumous stuff. Um, he directed The Diary of Anne Frank. He directed Something to Live For. I Remember Mama. It's a really good film. Uh, The Talk of the Town. The Talk of the Town, which I have here. Now, this is a nice 4K release. Nice in the sense that it looks amazing. And there's a commentary track on here with Marilyn Ann Ross talking about Talk of the Town featurette. Now, this is a great 4K release put out directly by Sony. And this stars Cary Grant, Jean Arthur, and Ronald Colman. And and this is a great film. This is a really good film. I really like this film a lot. This 4K looks amazing. If you don't have this 4K and you're a fan of George Stevens, you're a fan of the people in this movie, I highly recommend it. I really, really do. I didn't talk about this because it's not a boutique release, but it feels like this movie could have gotten a boutique release by somebody. But is an interesting company. Sony's an interesting company because they license out to boutique labels, and then they also put out their catalog stuff themselves too. Sometimes they do both. Sometimes they do both. For example, I mean, their Columbia Classics box sets that they put out, some of those movies have they licensed out to Criterion. I'm thinking of His Girl Friday. I'm thinking of The Last Picture Show. And uh, yeah, I'm thinking. Oh, Anatomy of a Murder. That's another one. And also, I'm thinking of Doctor Strangelove. Or how is yeah, Doctor Strangelove. That's another one. Doctor Strangelove has so many releases. so, I Doctor Strangelove has at least in my recollection, just recently, like the last 20 years, it's got a DVD release, it's got a Blu-ray release, it's got a Blu-ray release from Criterion, it's got a 4K release in one of the Columbia Classic sets, and it's got an individual 4K release that's the same release from the Columbia Classic set. But damn, it's got a lot of releases. It's got a lot of releases. Um, the Last Picture Show is similar, very similar. It's got a Blu-ray release from Criterion. It's got a 4K release from Criterion. It's got a 4K release from Sony. I mean, you're seeing a lot of crossover here, which is fascinating to me. So Sony is an interesting company where they will license things out and they will put out those same movies themselves as well. Um, yeah, but anywho, the Talk of the Town is a George Stevens film as well. I'm a big fan of George Stevens. I really like his work a lot. Like I said, I have several of his movies in my collection. And this documentary, like I said, they interview people who've worked with him, actors and actresses and production people and his son as well, who directed the movie. I really like it. I really like this documentary a lot. Like I said, it's not in depth at all. It's kind of just like an overture of his career. It talks about specifically his time during World War II, where he and several other filmmakers went over to basically photograph and videograph the war. And they were there at the liberation of the concentration camps. And the footage that they got, the pictures that they got, the things that they experienced in the aftermath of that will will leave you just absolutely awestruck. Will leave you absolutely awestruck of just what they captured. There was a whole documentary a couple of years ago that was on Netflix based on the book. Um, was it the four who came back? Something like that. Where there was the four filmmakers that went over there. Let me see if I can find this documentary really quick. Let's see. No, it's not the four who came back. I forgot what it's called. Excuse me. Let me see. Let me see if I can do a quick Google search here in the middle of podcasting. Not the best thing to do. I will definitely documentary on filmmakers World War II. WW2. Let's see. Oh, 5 came back. I was close. And by a couple of years ago, I meant 2017. In my mind, 2017 was a couple of years ago, but it was 9 years ago. So the 5 came back. That's the documentary. It's based off of, I believe, a book of the same name about the 5 filmmakers who, yeah, it says wartime contributions of 5 prominent Hollywood directors during World War II. And, gee, it's a great documentary. This documentary's got, oh my goodness, so many people in it that you know. So many people in it that you know, like Steven Spielberg and Guillermo del Toro. I want to see if I can get a list of. Yeah, it was George Stevens, Frank Capra, William Wyler, John Ford, and John Huston. Those were the directors who went over there and documented things, the things that they saw. Excuse me. Yeah, 2015 book, The 5 Came Back, A Story of Hollywood in the Second World War. I have to get that book. I don't have it. I say this all the time. There are so many movie-related books that I know of that I don't have that I want. It's kind of the same with movies. There's so many movies that I know of that I don't have that I want. But back to what I was saying, this documentary, George Stevens, A Filmmaker's Journey, is getting a 4K Blu-ray release. Now, if I do recall, this is see, they put out The Searchers on 4K. They put out um, Get Carter on 4K. They put out High Society on 4K, and now this. I think this is their fourth 4K. Maybe I'm missing one. I don't really. I'm not really sure. But either way, Warner Archive getting in the 4K game has been very good so far. They all look really, really good. High Society looks amazing. It was one of my favorite releases of last year because it just looked so good. And I was waiting so many years to add that movie to my collection, waiting for a Blu ray release, waiting, and we got a 4K of it. So that is it from Warner Archive. That is it from their April releases. Um, let's see, they're putting out Private Benjamin, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, Crack Up, King Richard and the Crusaders, Captains Courageous, Aerosmith, George Stevens, A Filmmaker's Journey, and Monogram Matinee Volume 2. Now let's go over to Radiance Films. We'll go over to Radiance, and they are putting out 4 releases. And let me see what month they're in. They're always ahead of everybody. This may even be July. Let's see. Yes. No, this is June. This is June. So they're not too far ahead. So these are their June releases. So we've got Warm Water Under a Red Bridge, The Pornographers, which is a 4K UHD release and a Blu-ray. La Tête con oh boy, La Tête contre le mur. There's an English language um, title to that too. But La Tête contre le mur. I forgot what I have to go check my. Let's see, usually they have the English language, but no, they just got the French. And then last year is the movie called Solo. So I got to see half of these. I watched The Pornographers because it's available to stream on the Criterion Channel streaming service as of this recording. And I watched La Tête contre le mur. So I did not get to see Warm Water Under a Red Bridge or Solo. Warm Water Under a Red Bridge is available currently, as of this recording, to stream on Canopy, which is accessible if you have a library card and if your library offers it. Essentially, that's how that works. Your library will offer either streaming services from Hoopla or from Canopy. That's what I found. My local library only does Canopy and not Hoopla, and then I know some that just do Hoopla, not Canopy. So there you go. But I want to talk about the films that I watched first, and let's start out with kind of a big one. That is The Pornographers. Now, I wanted to see if this movie had gotten a Blu-ray release before, because I had it in my watch list on. No, it did not. I would say because I had it in my watch list. Oh no, it did. No, yeah. So no. So it's gotten a Blu-ray release. Looks like in France in 2015 and 2026, and this 4K release is a UK release, and it's coming out in June 22nd. So I was wondering why I had added it to. It was in my watch list on Letterboxd, and usually the only reason why I add something on my watch list on Letterboxd currently is because I'm going to watch it for Chasing Labels. That's typically how things roll here. So I didn't know if we had talked about it before in a previous episode or what the case was. Either way, this is a fascinating movie. Really, it's it's a satire, but it's a satire in a darkly comedic way. Reminds me a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos, that type of level of satire. Kind of like his movie Dogtooth. That's the closest comparison I had in my head while watching this movie. If you know his movie Dogtooth, that movie apparently is considered a dark comedy, which still to this day blows my mind that movie is considered a dark comedy, because I don't think it's very comedic. I think it's kind of horrific. And in this movie, things are kind of in that realm as well, because it's so weird and it pushes the envelope when it comes to the material in the film and what it's talking about and what it's showing. Not showing, but just the stuff it's getting into. I'll read the description because I'm kind of babbling here. Let's see. The Pornographers, a former Buddhist monk turned erotic filmmaker. Subyan lives with hairdresser Haru and her two teenage children. Shooting 2 skin flicks per day, he somehow manages to stay out of the clutches of the Yakuza. But real trouble starts when Haru discovers him lusting after her daughter. Shohei Imamura's landmark satire of post-war affluence was adapted from the internationally renowned novel by Akiyuki Nosaka. Oh, the Grave of the Fireflies. Okay. And brings to vivid life the seedy side of 1960s Japan. The reason why I sighed thinking of Grave of the Fireflies is because that is one of the saddest movies I've ever seen. The anime film Grave of the Fireflies. Thinking about that movie makes me weep. Um, so anytime anyone references it, I immediately get sad. The sadness just overwhelms me in every way. But this movie, like this suggests, it's about this character who's basically making these do-it-yourself um, adult films on the down low, like in just like a room with a mattress and like a camera. Really amateur level stuff. And so you would think the movie would have some type of eroticism to it, and it doesn't. That's what's also interesting about this movie. It's a movie about that subject matter, but there's no sexiness to it. There's no eroticism to it. There's nothing really. If anything, it's more uncomfortable than anything. Um, and I think the movie's kind of playing on that idea that this material is typically seen as stimulating in a sexual way, but but in this case it is not, because it is because this movie dabbles also in certain taboos and things like that. It makes it incredibly weird and odd and uncomfortable and borderline, obscene for many people, reprehensible for many people. And this movie is also a commentary on post-war Japan as well. When did this movie come out? I think 1966. So it's in this post-war era of Japan that's actually seen as, I think, culturally and historically, it's called like the economic miracle of like post World War II Japan, where Japan had just this radical economic boost from like the 50s all the way up until like I believe a crash or so in the early 1970s. I did a little tangential historical research on it. Um, Not a lot to really inform you guys with any expertise, but I'm just saying it's within that time frame of this economic miracle in Japan. That's what it's known as. So this movie I think is commenting on that as well. So you need to have some cultural Japanese context of post World War II Japan to kind of, understand what this movie is going for. So if you do, I think you'll get a lot out of it. And this movie's made, interestingly so, very underground ish. I want to say this is, I have to look up, let me go over to Letterboxd actually, because the director I've seen a couple of films by this director before, and Radiance has put out a couple of films by this director as well, which is probably why I watched it. Why I watched them. Let me see. So I have to scroll through all kinds of stuff. Where was I? Ah, there it is. I'm just going to my Letterboxd diary right now to look up what I rated the pornographers, and then I want to look up the director Shohei Imamura. So I've seen. Okay, so the only other film of his that I have seen is The Eel, which also got a release from Radiance. But he's also put out the Ballad of Narayama. The Ballad of Narayama is a movie. Let me see, where did I put? Let me go to Criterion's website. I thought I had Criterion's website up. I believe. Oh no! The Criterion website is down. Okay. All right. Okay. It's under maintenance. Okay, that throws a little wrench in my plans, but I can look in other places to get the information that we need later on when we talk about Criterion. Offline for maintenance at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday. What kind of maintenance are we doing? Anywho, um, let me go. Where was I going to go? Oh, I'll go to Blu-ray.com. Uh, I'll go to Blu-ray.com and I'll look up the Ballad of Narayama because I want to make sure that it's actually a Criterion release. Let's see. Let me go. I had to. Let's see. Ballad of Narayama. Yeah, the Ballad of Narayama is a Criterion Blu-ray release from 2013. And I remember this movie. I remember this Criterion release because this is around the time where I was really starting to heavily buy Criterions. And I remember this one being cheaper than many of the others because it only had like one special feature. Let's see. Yeah. Actually, I had no special features. That's why. Because at the Criterion sale, things are 50% off. And there would be a couple of Blu-rays that would be regularly priced at $29.99 and therefore would be $15. And I'm like, oh, this is absurdly cheap. Why so? No special features. There you go. I remember there's this, and there's a couple of other ones that are similar to that, where they just have no special features, unfortunately. And I know Ballad of Narayama was one of them. So I would love for them to re-release this and to give us some special features, but at this point, maybe this is not the same movie. No, this is a different. Okay, so this is a different The Ballad of Narayama. My fault. So completely negate everything I just said. So the Ballad of Narayama that Criterion has put out is from 1958, as opposed to the Ballad of Narayama put out directed by Shoei Imamura, which is from 1983. Okay, completely different movie. My fault. Should have done that research. All I did was look at the titles and see that they were the same. But something that I hopefully I'm not getting this wrong. Let's see. I think this is only available on DVD. Pigs and Battleships. That is I believe a Criterion DVD. Yes. Yeah, that's that's actually out of print. That is a Shohei Imamura box set of 3 movies. The Pigs, Pimps, and Prostitutes, 3 films by Shoei Imamura DVD is out of print from Criterion, but those are his films as well. Okay. I just wanted to because I know I've heard the name before, and I know I've seen the movie. I've seen, the movies in places before, but I wanted to kind of give people context of other films that he has done. Yeah, he did The Eel and The Pornographers, which Radiance has put out, and they've also put out Warm Water Under a Red Bridge, which we'll be talking about, is also his film too. Okay, so let's get into the special features for The Pornographers, and then we'll move on because I'm spending way too much time on other stuff. So new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. There's a 4K UHD and Blu-ray presentation of the movie as a worldwide premiere on 4K. Uncompressed mono PCM audio. Interview with actor Masomi Kondo. Interview with Inuhiko Yamoto on Akiyuki Nosaka. Interview with critic Tony Raines. Cinema de Notre Temps, Shoei Imamura, the Freethinker, a French TV documentary on Imamura featuring filmmaker himself, discussing his key films from 1995, and that's it. Oh, there's a trailer too, but that's not really a special feature. Reversible sleeve art featuring originally and newly commissioned artwork, limited edition booklet as well, limited to 5,000 copies. Yeah, this is coming out, like I said, June 22nd, 4K UHD, as well as a Blu-ray, and that is The Pornographers. An interesting movie. I really liked it a lot. Let's go. You know what? Since we're on Shohei Imamura, let's go to Warm Water Under a Red Bridge. I did not get to see this movie, so I don't have a lot to say about it. Let's see. When a dying friend tells out of work salaryman Yosuke about a hidden treasure, he sets off in search of the only clue about its location, a house by a red bridge. What he finds instead is a woman who transcends all his fantasies. Japanese master Shohei Imamura's final feature reunites the cast and crew of his Palme d'Or winning The Eel for a boldly sensuous and taboo breaking love story. I am intrigued beyond belief. Um, about this movie. I'll be buying it. I will be buying it, so I will be watching it eventually. Let's see. High definition digital transfer, uncompressed stereo PCM audio, introduction to the film by Takashi Miike. Okay, I gotta get it. Interview with co-writer Daisuke Tengen. Making of documentary, archival discussion between Shohei Imamura and Takashi Miike from 2002, and a theatrical trailer. And there's a teaser trailer directed by Takashi Miike with newly filmed introduction. Um, versatile sleeve art, limited edition booklet, limited to 3,000 copies. This is coming out on June 22nd, 2026 as well. Warm Water Under a Red Bridge. I should have watched this movie, but I was exhausted and too tired. But damn, it sounds interesting to me. Now let's go to the movie I did get to see, La Tête contre le mur. Now let me actually get the English title here, just to make things easier for all of us. I believe it's called Head Against the Wall. Yeah, La Tête contre le mur is Head Against the Wall. Let me read the what it says about the movie. After he steals money from his wealthy father one too many times, the rebellious Francois is is forcibly committed to a psychiatric institution. Labeled a delinquent and an arsonist, he endures the dehumanizing treatment reserved for society's rejects and attempts to thwart the archaic methods of the cruel Dr. Valmont. Adapted by Maki from Hervé Bazin's shocking autobiographical novel, this poetic and furious debut feature from Georges Franju, who directed Eyes Without a Face. He also directed Judex as well. Eyes Without a Face, I think, is one of the greatest French films ever made. So I was already interested in watching this. Features an all-star cast including Anouk Aimée, who was in La Dolce Vita as Francois' only visitor. It's a young woman that he's seeing. Paul Maurice, who was in Les Diaboliques, in the role of the more modern Dr. Emery, and Charles Aznavour, who was in Shoot the Pianist as a longtime resident of the institution. Now, Shoot the Pianist is a Francois Truffaut film, I think. Let me actually look that up. I think that's, or am I thinking of, yeah. Hold on. I think, or Shoot the Pianist. I feel like there's another movie with a similar title to that. There's Shoot the Piano Player. That's the Francois Truffaut film. That's what I was thinking of. I saw that movie years ago. I saw that movie, I think, when Hulu used to have a deal with Criterion, where Hulu had a bunch of Criterion movies available to stream. This was going back when Hulu was kind of their own company, or rather, Hulu was owned by like it was like 51-49 percent of oh goodness, what's the company that owns Universal? Comcast? I think it was Comcast used to own it and Fox used to own it. Like half, like one owned like slightly more than the other. I think Comcast owned 51% and then Fox owned 49. It was one of those two things. But anywho, they had a deal with Criterion, and before the Criterion channel existed, before other streaming services really existed for movies, Netflix was around at the time. Hulu had Criterion movies, and Shoot the Piano Player was on there, and I watched it. This is going back 2011, 2012. But let's see. Actually, I could actually see when I actually watched this. 12 years ago, so that is putting me in a time frame. Yeah, yeah, so I watched this forever ago. But anywho, Shoot the Piano Player stars Charles Aznavour, and he is in this movie of, um, head of was it, La Tête contre le mur, or was it Head to the Wall? It's a very literal translation. Yeah, Head Against the Wall. Very literal translation. Um, but this movie is interesting because it's playing on several themes of how to approach mental health and how to approach people who suffer from mental health issues, various mental health issues, specifically during a time where they didn't really know how to handle it, or at least from a modern day contemporary perspective, it looks rather barbaric. It's 1959. They didn't understand a lot of what we know now when it comes to mental health issues, when it comes to you know how to treat them and all this kind of stuff. Basically, they kind of just lock these people away in psychiatric hospitals, just keep them away from society. That was kind of their thing. There wasn't really a lot of you know progressive treatments of that time. Like I mean, I just talked about. It's right behind me. I just talked briefly about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which kind of portrays that same type of thing where, like, we look back at the way in which they treated these people, and it was rather inhumane, kind of treating them as you know outcasts of society, treating them as others, treating them as if they're less than human, and all this kind of stuff, not really treating the problems and issues that they have. But it's a very interesting subject, because our concept of mental health has changed so rapidly over the last century, where nowadays it's taken way more seriously, and it's talked about much more in a much more open way. And people are kind of just now recognizing that there are better ways to treat it than what we used to do, which is either not treat it at all and just let people just stew in their mental health issues and just live a rather tough life dealing with all kinds of things. um, or they would just lock them away, give them things like electroshock therapy to kind of, work to kind of, shock them out of it. I mean, it's a whole can of worms here, but I'm just saying this movie from 1959 is commenting on the differences in ways to approach this. And in this movie, this kind of young, juvenile delinquent, he's kind of a young adult, but either way, he goes to this mental psychiatric facility, and there's these two doctors. There's a more conservative traditional doctor who runs the place. It's his place, and he runs it the way he wants to run it, and it's a more, like I said, conservative traditional way. And then there's a more of a progressive doctor who runs a program within that hospital his way, and the program that he runs leads to better results, leads to rehabilitation, leads to things like that, as opposed to the more conservative, traditional way, which doesn't really lead to any type of reform whatsoever in a person, doesn't lead to any type of help in a person. And the movie's battling with that, as well as this character going through personal things as well. um I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was really, really good. For special features and stuff, let me go through all of that. 4K restoration by Eclair Classics, supervised by Maki Delicious Productions. Let me see, is this directed by? No, it doesn't say. Why doesn't it say? Hold on, let me go check. No, it's directed by Georges Franju. Sorry, directed by Georges Franju, but Maki is in Jean Pierre Maki is in the movie. He stars as he stars the young man. Let me see. Yeah, he stars as Francois. So Jean Pierre Maki is probably a director and actor that many of you don't are not aware of. He was in several movies. He was in Orpheus. He was in Senso. He was in Litan. He's in this movie. He's in Kill the Referee, but he's also a director, and he directed Litan. He directed Kill the Referee. He directed the movie Solo, which we'll be talking about next. He directed Against Trouble. Um, but like I said, he stars in this movie as the main character. There's actually an archival interview with screenwriter and star Jean-Pierre Marquis from 2008, archival interview with director Georges Franju and actor Charles Aznavour from 1958. Georges Franju, like I said, he directed Eyes Without a Face. He directed Judex. Let's see, there's, I think that's it. Interview with Jean-Pierre Marquis' assistant and friend Eric Leroy from 2023. Reversible sleeve. There's a booklet in here as well. This is coming out June 22nd as well. Good film. Good film. Now let's go over to the last film, Solo, which is directed by Jean-Pierre Marquis. And this is a movie I did not get to see, like I said. A womanizing violinist and jewel thief, Jean-Pierre Marquis, must abandon his carefree lifestyle when he learns that his younger brother is part of the leftist revolutionary group responsible for the brutal murders of powerful men. Determined to save the life of his idealistic sibling, the cynical drifter becomes embroiled in a struggle that is not his to fight. A decade after appearing in La Tête contre les murs, Jean-Pierre Marquis returned to acting with this profound satirical crime drama, unflinching and heavily influenced by American cinema. Solo captures the visceral feeling of disillusionment of a post-1968 French society, brimming with rage at the sinister powers that be. Okay, I'm intrigued. I couldn't find, needless to say, I couldn't find this movie streaming anywhere, and when I did find it, there were no English subtitles. So I'm not fluent enough in French to watch a movie in French without English subtitles. I am not. I may have taken 5 years of French in school, but that was 20 years ago. I am not fluent at all. I can pretend to say it, and I can maybe see some words, and that's about it. Say some words, read a little bit, but that's about it. But there's a 4K restoration by Eclair Classics, supervised by Maki Delicious Products. Let's see, archival interview with screenwriter and star Jean-Pierre Marquis from 2018, interview with actor Anne Deleuze from 2022, interview with Jean-Pierre Marquis' assistant and friend Eric Leroy from 2022, a trailer, and then that's it. You do get, of course, reversible sleeve featuring designs based on the original posters, limited edition booklet as well, and limited to 3,000 copies. I think the last one was limited to 3,000 copies as well, coming out June 22nd from Radiance Films. So once more for the people listening at home and watching at home, we've got Warm Water Under a Red Bridge. We have The Pornographers getting a 4K UHD release. I feel like that's going to be a hot seller, to be honest. We have La Tête contre les murs, which is I always forget the freaking title. Head Against the Wall. Yeah, Head Against the Wall. Not a great title. Not a great title. And then we have Solo. And that is it for the June titles from Radiance Films. Now let me go over to Kino to get their releases. Let me go over to their Facebook page. Now, there are some that I don't believe are on their Facebook page that I put in the notes below. So I've got to go over to check my notes. I'll just go through what they have here on their Facebook page. Then I'll go to check my notes and I'll look up the ones that are on there that are not on their Facebook page. So Death of a Gunfighter is the first one up here. This is coming out May 5th on Blu-ray. This is a movie from 1969. After 20 years of service, Marshal Frank Patch, Richard Widmark, is betrayed by the very town he worked so hard to protect in Death of a Gunfighter. The small western town of Cottonwood Springs is changing, and Patch is no longer respected by the people. After Patch kills a man in self-defense, the town leaders decide it is time to remove the marshal from his position. Refusing to give in to their demands, the tension escalates between Patch and the people of the town, leading to a violent and shocking end. There is a new audio commentary with film historians Steve Mitchell and Steve Epstein, and a theatrical trailer. So that is it for the Death of a Gunfighter. Next up, we have Bend of the River. Okay, hold on for one moment because this is a Blu-ray re-release of a movie that they've already released on Blu-ray, but it's getting a 4K restoration. I have the original Blu-ray release. Let me go get it because I want to do a little comparison here. Hold on. So they've actually changed the cover art as well, which you typically don't see when Kino re-releases something. Hold on, let me make sure this my headphones are plugged in. So when Kino re-releases something, it's just the same artwork, right? And then they just, put the new disc in a case, and that is it. But they actually gave this a different artwork, which this isn't reversible. So it's new artwork, and like I said, Bend of the River, movie from 1952. This is the movie starring Jimmy Stewart, Arthur Kennedy, Julia Adams, and Rock Hudson. I think Rock Hudson's in it very briefly, but it's this movie here. Now, this is a Anthony Mann film. This is an Anthony Mann Western. After World War II, Jimmy Stewart, who served in World War II, actually, I believe, as a fighter pilot, he did a few westerns with Anthony Mann. His filmography and the movie choices after World War II were rather different than the movies he did before World War II. He started to do kind of different films, but he did westerns, and he worked with Anthony Mann on several movies. Winchester 73, which I've talked about how much I love. The Naked Spur, which Warner Archive has put out a Blu-ray of that, which I think I have. Yeah. I have my Anthony Mann section is actually like right over there. It's right there. um, it's it's interesting. Uh, and he also did The Man from Laramie as another one. The Far Country, which I believe Arrow's put out a Blu-ray of The Far Country. But Kino's put out Bend of the River, and this is your original Blu-ray of that. And this new Blu-ray, let's see. Actually, let me read the description of the movie, and then we'll do special features. Reformed outlaw Glenn McClintock, Jimmy Stewart, guides a band of pioneers from Missouri over the Oregon Trail to a new life in the Columbia River Basin in this Western adventure directed by the great Anthony Mann. When the settlers are cheated out of their supplies and cattle, Stewart crosses rivers, climbs mountains, and outguns greedy hijackers to ensure their survival through the first winter. Along the way, he is double-crossed by ally Arthur Kennedy. Oh, that Arthur Kennedy. And assisted by the handsome San Francisco gambler Rock Hudson. Yes, okay, yeah, that's what I remember. And beautiful farmer's daughter Julia Adams. A screenplay by Borden Chase and featuring a wonderful cast that includes J.C. Flippin, Chubby Johnson, Stephen Fetchit, Harry Morgan. Oh, Harry Morgan, nice. Harry Morgan, wow. And it says Royal Dano. So the special features on this new edition that's coming out, 4K restoration by Universal Pictures in collaborations with Film Foundation. New audio commentary by film historian / writer Julie Kurgo and author / screenwriter C. Courtney Joyner, and an audio commentary by film historian Toby Rohn. Now, that second audio commentary by Toby Rohn is on the original release. Actually, it's the only special feature on this original release. I was gonna say I'm a little upset, but not really. I mean, it happens. If you've been collecting movies long enough, chances are there's going to be a better edition of a movie that you already own that comes out. Usually, it's in a better format, but obviously, this is not the case. It's still going to be just Blu-ray, but it is going to be a 4K restoration. Now, what I will probably do is I'll probably get this new 4K restoration of this movie and probably give this away to a friend. See if I can find a friend who likes Jimmy Stewart as much as I do. Um, because this is a good movie. It's Anthony Mann. It's a western. Also you have to like westerns too. Now you have to find somebody who likes westerns, which is a little easier said than done. The western isn't exactly a prominent genre these days. Set this aside. Um, yeah, so that's Bend of the River getting a Blu-ray re-release from a new 4K restoration that's done by Universal Pictures. Now, why aren't they upgrading it to 4K? Probably because of cost. From what I understand, and from what I've garnered from interviews from a lot of people who've done interviews with uh, those behind the scenes who work at these companies, for a 4K release is rather more expensive than a Blu-ray release. I think it's like 4 times more, and you have to make you're like required to make a specific amount of them. Like I think it's like you have to make like several thousand more copies, like at a minimum of 4K versus a Blu-ray. So that's an added cost as well. Of course, disc manufacturing and all this kind of stuff. So I understand why Kino wouldn't put it out on 4K, but if there's a 4K restoration, you kind of want to see it in 4K, but I understand. Also, I don't know how many people are going to buy Bend of the River on 4K other than myself and probably a select few other people as well. Now, moving way away from westerns from the 50s starring Jimmy Stewart, we have a neo-noir from the 90s starring Matt Dillon and Sean Young. And that is the movie A Kiss Before Dying from 1991. I've always been a fan of Matt Dillon as an actor. I think he's a really good actor. And this was around the time where he was making his rise as an actor. The late 80s, Drugstore Cowboy was an early film from him. He was also he was also in several other movies of the time, but then the 90s hit and he was in a bunch of stuff. And Matt Dillon was a pretty big name back then. But this came out in 1991. Matt Dillon, Sean Young, and Max von Sydow star in this chilling romantic thriller from writer-director James Dearden. Troubled by the death of her twin sister Dorothy, Ellen Carlson, Sean Young, unwittingly falls in love with an ambitious young man, Jonathan Corliss. As she investigates Dorothy's death, a chance encounter reveals how little Ellen really knows about her husband, and what she doesn't know may kill her in this heart-stopping suspense thriller based on Ira Levin's best-selling novel. Um, Sean Young, I think, is probably most well known for being in Blade Runner. At least that's where I know her from. Um, and I think she was also in Ace Ventura. Going from Blade Runner to Ace Ventura to a 1990s neo noir. For special features for A Kiss Before Dying, there's a new audio commentary by film historians Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, and there's another audio commentary that is new by film historians David Del Val and Classic Film Festival producer Ryan Bijan. And this one is coming out May 12th on Blu-ray. Next, we have a double feature. I know nothing about these movies. It's double feature of The Base from 1999 and The Base 2 Guilty as Charged from 2000. Let's see, The Base from 1999. Here's a little. It says a double dose of supercharged military action directed by Mark L. Lester, who directed Commando and The X. Okay. The Base, 1999. When an officer is gunned down on the Camp Tillman Army base, the Pentagon sends in their top Army intelligence man, John Murphy. Mark Dacascos, oh boy. Murphy discovers that a senior sergeant and his men are attempting to take over the drug business along the Mexican border. As Murphy delves deeper into the case, he walks a fine line of corruption and ultimately pits himself against an entire army. Okay, so that's The Base from 99. Then we have The Base 2, Guilty as Charged. Excuse me. My chest is feeling heavy. Two dozen U.S. soldiers are missing without a trace, and the president wants answers. Of course he does. It's up to John Murphy to find them. Murphy goes undercover to infiltrate an underground military court where those judged guilty are forced into a lethal sport of hunting and they are the prey. It will take more than surviving the game to take down the court's sadistic ringleader. James Raymar, nice. Great character actor of our time, James Raymar. I love when he pops up in things. So that is the base and the base 2 guilty as charged. Um, And for special features, there's a new audio commentary for the bass by Mark L. Lester, the director, and actor Randy Cognata. Moderated by Dark Force Entertainment's David DeFalco. And Know Your Weapons, new interview with Bass 2 star Antonio Sabato Jr., and then the Bass and the Bass 2 trailers. And this is um, coming out May 19th on Blu ray. Okay, so next we have Walk a Tightrope. Now this, gee, they don't even. I'm glad I've seen it because they don't give you a description here. Just says coming soon on Blu-ray, new HD master by Paramount Pictures from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative. So Kino's had a deal going, distribution deal going with Paramount for a little while now. I want to say like a year or two. So it's still apparently going. I know those contracts typically for Kino last a couple of years. Not a lot, not like an infinite amount of years, because they've had a lot of their titles go out of print, and they will have those buy it before it goes out of print sales on their website. That's how you know what they're losing the rights to. Is they'll try to sell off as much of their things as possible, as cheap as possible. So Walk a Tightrope, which is actually the last movie I watched in preparation for Chasing Labels. Um, It says, meet Ellen Shepherd, an American living in Britain. Her English husband, Jason Shepherd, has been killed and she's under suspicion despite the appearance of a happy marriage. Jason's friend assists Ellen going over the facts to see if they can find the real killer. So, this movie stars Dan Duryea, Patricia Owens, Terrence Cooper, and Dan Duryea is this guy who believes that he was hired to kill this woman's husband, in which he does so, but doesn't she has no idea about it, apparently. Apparently, she is completely just taken aback by it. She's accused by him of, hey, we had this deal. You were going to pay me to do this. And um and she is trying to basically prove her innocence or find out what is actually going on. And that's the movie. So it's a film noir. Let's see, it came out in 63 neo noir, since it's in the neo noir phase. There is, like I said, there is a mystery behind it. It's fine. It's not like the movie. The movie is kind of relatively straightforward. There is certain twists and turns, but it's not like earth shattering. It's fine. I would go into the movie knowing nothing about it. That would probably be best. The movie is only 69 minutes long, so it's every single scene, every single moment is, you know, is adds to the plot, adds to the mystery, and moves forward. Not a lot of character stuff going on in the movie. At a lean 69 minutes, not much you can do. There's actually two run times. There's 69 minutes and then there's 75 minutes. The 75-minute cut is the one that I watched, and it's the one that I found was available the most to watch. And so, an extra 6 minutes, not really world changing, but it's a little more than 69 minutes. So that's Walk a Tightrope. Now let me check some comments here. Illuminated Pro has popped into the comments and he says, salutations to you too, Illuminated Pro. Illuminated Pro also asks, absolute comfort film. Okay, that's interesting because I typically go with my favorites. So for me, my favorite movie of all time is Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is my favorite movies of all time. You may be asking, well, which one? I kind of look at all, and this is cheating beyond cheating. I kind of look at all of them as one long movie because they really are. They are separated into three films, but each film flows into the next, picks up exactly where the previous movie left off. There's no time jumps between movies, really. You're pretty much picking up right away. So I kind of look at them as one long block of movies. But if you had to ask me, Return of the King is a monumental feat of cinema, especially within the last 25 years. Um, it's a unique epic filmmaking on an epic level. Now, if you wanna take, Lord of the Rings aside, you wanna go with something a little more low key, a little more, down a little more, not as epic, not as pompous, not as, time consuming, literally. There are certain other movies that are my comfort films. Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused is a movie I used to watch every single year. Um, his movie Before Sunset, I used to watch pretty regularly. I think about those movies a lot, really. Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, I think about those movies a lot. Certain comedies are comfort films to me as well. Let's see. I don't know some of my all-time favorites. I'm trying to think of comfort films. I'm actually on my letterbox right now. I might as well look at my all-time my all-time favorites, because that will give me a sense of what um is my favorites. As what is my comfort films? Let's see, because comfort films and favorites are two different things. For example, movies I have highly rated on my letterbox would be like Raging Bull. Raging Bull is not exactly a comfort film to me. So, Martin Scorsese's films can be comfort films. Um, like something like Hugo. That's something that's a little more low key, a little less cerebral for Martin Scorsese. To be honest, The Departed, because it has the Northeast ties, is a bit of a comfort Martin Scorsese film for me because I know it so well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first film from 1990. That movie brings me back to my childhood. That movie is an all-time favorite of mine. That's a comfort movie for me because, yet again, tie it back to my childhood. Something like Ghostbusters, tie it back to my childhood. Certain Disney films, Lion King, goes back to my childhood. Rescuers Down Under goes back to my childhood. Stuff like that. Those are typically things that you attach to your childhood or your life. Star Wars, comfort film. You know what I mean? Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, comfort film. Last Crusade, even Temple of Doom, which I know people don't really like. For example, I was eating dinner the other night, and Temple of Doom was on. I think one of the Showtime. It was on Showtime because Paramount's own Showtime, and I can just have it on because I've seen it so many times. You know what I mean? Things like that are typically my comfort films. Movies I've been watching since I was a kid. Back to the Future, comfort films. Um, things like that. You know, things like that. But let's move on to like. Actually, we're not moving on. We are going to be doing a couple of more keynotes that are not on my list here. Um, Let me look a couple of these up. Excuse me. Let me go to. I'm trying to decide where to look these up. I'm going to Blu-ray.com and look up. So, Flight is getting a 4K UHD release from Kino. Now, Flight is actually, I believe it's a Paramount release. I don't think they have any details on it. Okay. Gonna make this more difficult. Oh, no, there it is. So, Kino Lorber are preparing a 4K Blu-ray release of Robert Zemeckis' Flight from 2012, starring Denzel Washington, John Goodman, Don Cheadle, Kelly Riley, Bruce Greenwood. The release is expected to arrive on the market this summer. Yet again, it's one of those where we don't know the release date quite yet. Let me go over to. Actually, let me check. See if there's any details on this yet. 'Cause I feel like I saw details for this release. I saw it over on Ryan Verrill's The Disconnected. You scroll. I'm going to have to scroll down pretty far because he covers every single release that comes out. Oh, there's Flight. Just says brand new HDR/DV master. And that's it. Okay, so there wasn't any details that I was missing. I'm assuming they're just going to carry over the special features that are on the Blu-ray that's been available, oh goodness, since 2012. Damn. Jeez. And they're also releasing a 4K of The Snowman. Okay, which I think I covered before. So The Snowman is a movie directed by Thomas Alfredson, if I do recall. And it stars Michael Fassbender, and it's not a great movie. It's notoriously, it's a movie that they were not able to make the whole movie. They were not able to shoot the whole script, which is baffling to me. They basically ran out of time in production to shoot the whole screenplay. So that's going to hamper a movie, and it does. And the movie's actually, I believe, edited by Thelma Shoemaker, who tries to salvage the movie. She really does. So coming on May 26th on 4K Blu-ray dual format in the US from Kino Lorber is The Snowman from 2017 from executive producer Martin Scorsese. That's why Thelma Shoemaker worked on it. Okay. Um, the Snowman is based on Joe Nesbo's New York Times best-selling thriller series. When an elite Norwegian crime squad's lead detective, Michael Fassbender, investigates the disappearance of a victim on winter's first snow, he fears an elusive serial killer may be active again. With the help of a brilliant recruit, Rebecca Ferguson, the cop must connect decades-old cold cases to the brutal new one if he hopes to outwit the killer before the next snowfall. An icy psychological thriller directed by Thomas Alfredson, who directed Let the Right One In, which is excellent. That needs a 4K release. I don't think it has one. I know Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy has a 4K release from Kino, and that's the movie starring. Oh goodness, why am I blanking on? Oh man, you can tell it's that time. It's that time of the podcast where my mind is going. My mind is completely blanking on names. Gary Oldman. Starring Gary Oldman, which I think was the first time he was ever nominated for an Oscar was for that movie. I remember that years ago. And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is based on a John le Carré novel. John le Carré is kind of like one of the masters of the Cold War spy era novels. He had a whole series of those throughout his career. He was incredibly well known for that. And I have several of his novels in my collection. I got to get the rest of them. I think I have Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the novel. I think I have the movie too. I don't think I have the 4K. Let me look behind me for a second. No, I don't. I have the original Blu-ray. It's literally right behind me. It's like right over my shoulder this way. I'm always worse at my camera angles. But the movie The Snowman is kind of a mess, and I know people did not like it when it came out. Despite the fact that it starred Michael Fassbender, who people seem to really, really love as an actor, and I've always been a big fan of him as an actor. Rebecca Ferguson. This was at the time where I think she had just done Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, where it was the first Mission Impossible film that she was in. Amazing actress, really amazing actress. But this movie just did not work because, like I said, they weren't able to shoot the whole script, so, which is kind of paramount in a movie. That's why, and this is me going off on a little bit of a tangent here, so excuse me for that. The movies that came out right after the first writer's strike. So there was a writer's strike in 2007, 2008. So the movies that came out in 2009 that were made during that writer's strike all suffered because of it. The writers were not able to be on set. The writers were not able to do rewrites during productions or touch-ups or anything like that. And those movies suffered greatly after that. So the screenplay for a movie and the writers on a movie are really important to the overall production of a film. I can't stress that enough. Last night while I was watching the Oscars, the Academy Awards, the screenplay categories, I always pay attention to those because there's some great screenplays in there that unfortunately, obviously, you can only have one winner. I think last night's winners were Sinners and One Battle After Another. Two really good screenplays, in my opinion, but everything else that was nominated, you couldn't have gone wrong with any of those screenplays. They were all really, really good. I say this over and over again. I think one of the best screenplays of the last several years is the Banshees of Inisherin. The Banshees of Inisherin, the McDonough film. I that screenplay is so good, so good. I'm shocked to this day that it did not win a Best Screenplay Oscar. But like I was saying, The Snowman, uh, they couldn't shoot the whole screenplay. But for special features, it's a 2-disc edition. Brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. There's an audio commentary by filmmaker slash film historian Steve Mitchell and screenwriter Michael Charles Hill. Making sure this is the right release. Yeah, it's the right one. And then there's another new audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Mark Edward Hoyk. Excuse me. And on the second disc is those same two audio commentaries, plus special features, cast of characters, creating Joe Nesbo's world, the snowman killer, Norwegian landscape, stunt files, the sinking lake, and then theatrical trailer. Excuse me. So let me see what else. Oh, Harry and the Hendersons. We talked about Harry and the Hendersons a few episodes ago when it was announced. Now we've got a release date and we've got special features. Okay. This is one, talk about something from my childhood. Harry and the Hendersons, the Harry and the Hendersons TV series was also something I watched as well. So coming on May 26th on 4K/Blu-ray dual format in the US from Kino Lorber is Harry and the Hendersons from 1987, the year I was born. Brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. The movie stars John Lithgow. I think the makeup effects were done by Rick Baker. A family basically is driving through the woods and they accidentally hit a Sasquatch and they bring it home with them. That's basically the premise of the movie. And he becomes like a part of the family, but they got to keep him hidden because it's Bigfoot. They got to keep him hidden, or else people are gonna harass them. They're gonna want to know everything about him and all this kind of stuff. It's a family comedy movie. It's a warm family comedy movie. It's from, like I said, it's from my childhood. The TV show's from my childhood. I would love if the TV show would get a Blu-ray release, but I could live 1,000 years and I don't think that would happen. But special features, we've got new audio commentary by director William Deere. There's another audio commentary by Hats Off Entertainment's Joe Ramone. There's a third audio commentary by entertainment journalists / authors Brian Reisman and Max Every. That's on disc 1. And then disc 2, which is the Blu-ray, you get all of those commentaries, plus the movie, of course. And then you get Harry finding the missing link, Making of Harry and the Hendersons, news wrap, deleted scenes, and theatrical trailer, 5.1, audio stuff and whatnot. Yeah, I am excited for this. This is going to be a nice nostalgia trip for me and probably for many people from my generation and earlier. Yeah, I love Harry and the Hendersons. So this is gonna be so great. Let me see The Great Outdoors. Okay, so I talked about The Great Outdoors when this was announced, and now we've got a release date and we've got special features for The Great Outdoors. For those of you interested in this John Candy and Dan Aykroyd comedy from 1988, brand new HDR. No, it's coming out May 26th on 4K. And there's a brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from 4K scan with 35mm original camera negative. And I haven't said this, but Kino's 4Ks of these, older comedies from like the 80s and 90s look really good. Like really, really good. I've talked about this before and I want to reiterate this again. Kino's 4Ks look better than most mainstream 4Ks. Like kind of significantly better sometimes. I'm talking specifically about the difference between the movie Black Sheep, the Chris Farley film on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray of Tommy Boy put out by Paramount, or the 4K put out by Paramount. Those two 4Ks look pretty different in terms of quality, like noticeable, which is interesting to me. But I just want to point that out. When an announced, uninvited, unwelcome family of fun-loving misfits converge upon a lakeside resort to join their relatives for a summer of relaxation, the result is anything but restful in this raucous comedy starring the irresistible duo of Dan Aykroyd and John Candy, from iconic writer John Hughes and director Howard Deutsch. Howard Deutsch is the husband of Leah Thompson and the father of Zoe Deutsch, who I actually will be talking about very soon because she's in a movie. She's in Nouvelle Vague, which I will be talking about is getting a Blu-ray release in the UK. Nouvelle Vague being one of Richard Linklater's newest films. But anywho, this camp classic chronicles a vacationer's worst nightmare as wheeler dealer Roman Craig, Dan Aykroyd, his sexually repressed wife, and airy twin daughters join the easygoing Chester Chet Ripley, John Candy, and his straight-laced clan for a season of fun in the sun. Unfortunately, the only thing these two in-laws have in common is their intense dislike for each other. Soon, it's brother-in-law against brother-in-law in an uproarious and hilarious fight to the finish to see which one really knows how to enjoy the great outdoors. 2-disc edition. Disc 1, brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. There are 3 audio commentaries once again. There's a new audio commentary by director Howard Deutsch, moderated by filmmaker Douglas Hosdale. There's a new audio commentary by Hats Off Entertainment's Joe Ramone, and a new audio commentary by film historians Paul Anthony Nelson and Lee Zachariah. Second disc, the Blu-ray, you get the movie, as well as those 3 audio commentaries, and that's it. So that is The Great Outdoors. Now, I think that's... See, let me check my notes. Oh, Terror Train. Okay. I have to look for Terror Train. Now that was actually announced like right after, I think it was announced like the day after the previous episode of Chasing Labels. So I've got to dig deep into the archives for that. Not a great movie, I will tell you. It's a slasher starring Jamie Lee Curtis that came out in 1980, so right around the time after she was doing Halloween and Halloween 2 and Prom Night. And let's see. Yeah, I may have to look this up on Blu-ray.com. Let me look it up on Blu-ray.com. It all takes place on a train, hence the title of the movie. I, for some reason, cannot spell train. Oh, there it is. Terror Train. Let's see. Terror Train 4K, it says... No. Blu-ray.com, you are killing me when it comes to your lack of... Let's see. Trying to get some special feature information, and they're just telling me nothing. Not helpful. Not helpful. Oh, boy. Okay. This is not helpful at all. Let me just keep scrolling down and then vamping for a little while. Because I want to see if there's actually any special feature information. Like I said, the starring Jamie Lee Curtis. The premise of the film is that it's kind of the usual slasher thing that we've seen in a lot of movies before. These kids play a prank on this young boy that they're kind of picking on, right? And it traumatizes him in such a way that later on he wants to get revenge against them. So he dresses up as this magician while like all of his classmates are on this trip on a train, and he starts like taking them out one by one, and this conductor is basically trying to stop him from doing it. That's basically the premise of the movie. And Jamie Lee Curtis is one of the classmates that was part of this prank that was pulled on him. So he's, wants revenge on her. Let's see. There's also one more um Warner archive I've got to talk about too. Remind me. I mean, none of you guys can really remind me in any way, but let's see. Did I scroll past it? I may have scrolled. Oh, no, there it is. Finally, I had to scroll all the way back to March 4th. That's how long ago that this was announced. So, coming on May 26th on 4K from Kino Lorber, from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative, you've got the movie, like I just said, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Ben Johnson as well. Ben Johnson was in The Wild Bunch, directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who directed Tomorrow Never Dies. Wow. I don't know how you went from this to Tomorrow Never Dies, but who knows? Yeah, it's a New Year's Eve party. Yeah, and a group of college co-eds have planned a masquerade bash aboard a chartered train. What they didn't plan on was that a knife-wielding psycho would crash the party and begin slaughtering the guests one by one. It's a 1980s slasher, right? And let's see, you have an audio commentary by Paul Korb of Canucksploitation.com and film historian Jason Pachonsky. Audio commentary by film historians Alexandra Helen Nicholas and Josh Nelson. That's awesome. Interview with director Roger Spottiswoode and screenwriter Judith Brasco. And that is Terror Train. So that is it from Kino, but there was another Warner archive that I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of a big one that people were buzzing about, and I'm glad I scrolled past it here, and it's the movie Last Summer, which is getting, I believe, a screening at the American Cinematheque. It says Last Summer plus Q&A with actor Barbara Hershey, moderated by Larry Karaszewski, Sunday, March 29th, 2026. Now, this is also getting a Warner Archive Blu-ray release too. And obviously from this new restoration. It's the world premiere of the new restoration of the theatrical version of the film. Detail on Warner Archive's upcoming Blu-ray release will be announced soon. And I don't think it was announced yet. Let me check Warner Archive's Facebook page. It's Warner Classics now, but I don't think they announced anything in terms of special features. I'm hoping they put that Q&A on the Blu-ray. That would be nice. Whether they do that or not, I have no idea. I believe Larry Karaszewski is involved with the restoration. Obviously, he's involved with that exhibition, but the movie itself, oh, here we go. It is on their Facebook page. It's just telling me the same information I just said. But this movie is a movie I had actually never heard of before until now. And it's really, really good. Let me go to my Letterboxd and get the synopsis of it so people get a sense of what it is. And it's rather highly rated on Letterboxd from not only the audience in general, but my people I follow too, which I always pay attention to because I'm curious of what people think of certain movies. And they really like this one. So it stars Barbara Hershey. It says, during summer vacation on Fire Island, three young people become very close when an uncool girl tries to infiltrate the trio's newly found relationship. They construct an elaborate plot that has violent results. And that's not really quite the premise of the film. They make it seem more schemy than it is. The movie is directed by Frank Perry, and Frank Perry directed the movie The Swimmer from 1968, starring Burt Lancaster. That's an amazing film. That film is excellent. That movie's got a Blu-ray release from Grindhouse Releasing, and it's got a release from Indicator as well. Speaking of which, there will be Indicator announcements this coming week, actually. Frank Perry also directed the movie Mommy Dearest, and also directed the movie Diary of a Mad Housewife. The reason why I reacted to Mommy Dearest, that's a rather controversial film. That's the movie starring Faye Dunaway, who portrays Joan Crawford, the movie's based on her daughter's book, which may or may not be true depending on who you talk to. So I know classic Hollywood fans who hate that movie, hate that book, hate the daughter who wrote that book. Um, and then I know people who think it's true and think that Joan Crawford is the scum of the earth. It's all over the place. Frank Perry also directed the movie last summer. He also directed the movie Rancho Deluxe, which has a Fun City Editions release. And I want to talk about Fun City Editions' newest announcement, actually. And Frank Perry also directed the movie Monsignor as well. Yes, starring a Christopher Reeve as a priest. I saw this. Um, Interesting movie. Not a great movie. It's not really good, but it's or is he a cardinal in that movie? Either way, he's part of the Catholic Church. Anywho, Frank Perry is an interesting director who I've seen more of his work than I thought. But last summer came out in 1969. It's a group of young people, like older teenagers, if you will, and they're at that interesting age of exploration of life. Interesting exploration of sexual identity and experimentation. It's the 60s. You understand that vibe, right? And this younger teenage girl becomes part of their group. She's younger, she's more inexperienced in life, and she's more, sheltered, if you will. And that, and then it's about their relationship and all that kind of stuff. The movie doesn't really have a solid plot. It's kind of more of a moment to moment hangout, like I said, exploration type of movie about these four young people during these summer days, these hot summer days. And I find those movies fascinating. Any type of coming of age movie, any type of movie that explores the themes of adolescence and teenage years of, especially from a specific generation. I find those interesting as well because this is of a specific generation. The late 1960s generation. Um, these kids have kind of missed out on a lot of the tumultuous times of the 1960s, which I find fascinating. And they're going to probably grow into adulthood in the 70s, which is also an interesting time in American history. But um, this movie is fascinating. Like I said, the most prominent actor in it is probably Barbara Hershey, who went on to be in several movies. She was in, oh goodness, she was in The Last Temptation of Christ. She was in Hannah and Her Sisters. She was in The Right Stuff. She was in Hoosiers, I believe. And yeah, so many movies. Actually, a lot of movies. She's in The Natural as well. And of course, she's in Boxcar Bertha. But Boxcar Bertha came out after this. Okay, that's one of Martin Scorsese's earliest films. Just got a cinematograph release from Vinegar Syndrome. Actually, I have to get that. But The Last Summer, or simply titled Last Summer, is a rather interesting movie. I do recommend it to people. Um, yeah. So that is. Let me see what else I've got here before we get into Criterion. There are a couple of individual releases I want to talk about. Like I mentioned, I'm going to talk about Nouvelle Vague right now because this is the one of Richard Linklater's newest films, and I've always been a big fan of Richard Linklater. Richard Linklater is one of my favorite directors, really, of all time. Like I mentioned earlier, some of his films have become my comfort films, like the Before trilogy, as well as Dazed and Confused. But he's also done other films. I have a whole section in my collection, Boyhood. Um, a movie of his that I really like, that I really wish would get a Blu-ray release, would be Me and Orson Welles. I don't know what the heck's going on with that. He directed a remake of The Bad News Bears, which I know people are not big fans of, but it does star Billy Bob Thornton, and Billy Bob Thornton as the Walter Matthau character, I think, is great in it. He's directed, oh goodness, so many films. But Nouvelle Vague is an interesting experiment of a film. The movie is, well, I believe it premiered at Cannes last year. Stars Zoe Deutsch, Alex Benezek, Guillaume Marbek, and Gigi Felicitat. The release is scheduled to arrive on the market on April 13th. Now, this is being put out by Altitude Film Distribution, and this is a UK release. And the reason why I'm mentioning it's a UK release is because this is currently being distributed by Netflix. So you can only watch it on Netflix. And Netflix kind of typically doesn't put their movies out on Blu-ray or physical media in general. There are some cases. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein's getting a 4K release. His film Pinocchio got a 4K Blu-ray release. Martin Scorsese's Irishman got a Blu-ray release. So there are some exceptions here. I don't know if Nouvelle Vague will eventually be one of them. I would love for that to happen. I mean, there are several movies that have been out on Netflix for many, many years that have not gotten Blu-ray releases yet. I'm thinking of The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the Coen Brothers film. No Blu-ray of that yet. I was still waiting. But Nouvelle Vague, so this is a movie that is about the making of Breathless, the Jean-Luc Godard film, one of the staples of the French New Wave. It is in every film school on the planet, and they watch Breathless. I've seen Breathless several times. I've talked about Breathless many, many times. It's been released by so many different companies. Criterion's put it out so many times. So many times. They put it out on Blu-ray twice, I think. They put it out on 4K, I think. Actually, let me go over and see if the Criterion website's still down. Yeah, it's still down. Because I clicked on it and it won't even bring me to their website. Let me go over to Blu-ray.com. Because Breathless, I think Breathless has a 4K now. Yeah, Breathless has a 4K that came out 3 years ago at this point. So it's been around, you know what I mean? And this is Criterion 101. This is Film School 101. This is International Film 101 in terms of, movies to recommend to people who want to get into French cinema. Breathless, right? Iconic movie. Iconic, starring Gene Seberg, Jean-Paul Belmondo, directed by Jean-Luc Godard. So this movie is about the making of Breathless, and you've got to love French cinema. You've got to love the French New Wave. You've got to be a fan of Breathless. You've got to know a little bit about the context of French cinema at the time to kind of really appreciate this movie, to really get this movie, because it doesn't hold your hand with things. Also, you got to know some of the big time players in the world of French cinema at that time. Because they make appearances. Well, actors are portraying them, obviously, but they make appearances. I'm talking about Claude Chabrol, Francois Truffaut, Agnes Varda, Jacques Demy, Jacques Rivette. I mean, it's like the Avengers of French directors in this movie. It's kind of amazing. It gave me a little bit of goosebumps, if you will, because I know it's fictional versions of these people, but damn, if it wasn't cool to see them represented on screen. They're all at the Cahiers du Cinéma typing away at typewriters. It's kind of great. It's like a cinephile's wet dream of a movie at times. But yeah, that's Nouvelle Vague. You got to know a lot of context to appreciate it. But this release, like I said, is coming out in the UK. I don't see any special features here. It says it's coming out April 13th. So that's relatively soon, actually. That's less than a month. And they're just giving me stuff. But anywho, I want to make sure to mention that. Let's see, what else do I got here on my list before we get into Criterion? Because I want to speed things up. Oh, I'm going to go to Fun City. Let me go. Because then there's Fun City editions. Oh, Criterion's website is back up. Hey, now. Good. They went from the time I've started streaming 2 hours or so ago, the website went from being active to being down for maintenance to being active again. So things are looking up here on Chasing Labels. But let me go over to Fun City Edition's website to talk about their newest release. Hopefully it is. Oh, it is on here. Thank goodness. Um, so it's called Spike of Bensonhurst. It's a 4K UHD / Blu-ray limited edition site exclusive. Also, if you are interested in Fun City Editions, if you are a fan of Fun City Editions, or even if you're not and you don't, but you want to know more about Fun City Editions, Steven, the producer / former co-host here on Chasing Labels, just did an interview with Jonathan Hertzberg, who that's his label, that's his company of Fun City Editions. Jonathan Hertzberg has been on here on Chasing Labels a couple of times over the last few years, so check out that recent interview that Steven did with him, and also check out some of the releases on their website at funcityeditions.com. I've got to catch up on a few myself. So yeah, I'm looking because up there, I'm pointing off screen. You guys can't see it, but up there in a shelf in front of me, I have all my Fun City Editions like lined up together. And there's a gap there at the end of all the ones I don't have, and it bothers me every day. I don't know if other collectors do this, or maybe it's just me, but when I look at my collection, all I see are the things that I don't have. All I see are the things that I'm missing, and all I see are the holes and the gaps in my collection. No matter how many movies I have, no matter how many movies I get, all I ever see are the things I don't have and the gaps and the holes in my collection that I need to get or I need to fill. I don't know what that says about me, but I just thought I would point that out. So every day, I see my Fun City Editions shelf and I go, man, I'm missing some stuff. And I'm missing some stuff from like the last year or so, actually. We have some comments here. We have another comment here, actually, for Dustin Putman. Dustin Putman, who will be, I believe, still Dustin. If you're listening, if you're watching, Dustin will actually be here co-hosting with me in the next episode, actually. He will be co-hosting with me on the 30th of March. So that will be the next episode. If that is still indeed the case. And he is along with me. It's the struggle of needing to fill the gaps of missing films when you have so many. It is so real. It really is. People and non-movie collectors don't get it. They don't get it. Yes. They don't understand that they like non-movie collectors will walk into this area here, and you guys are only seeing a little bit of it. You guys are only seeing a little bit. I'm gonna turn you a little bit here, ever so slowly, so I don't screw things around. This is everything, This is a lot of what I got, right? I'm not gonna show everything, because I'm afraid my camera's gonna fall off the tripod. But let me move you guys back here. They walk in here and see all of this, right? And they're like, and they think it's a lot, and it is, of course. To the untrained eye, it is a lot. But to me, there's so much missing. There's just so much missing. Man, and it gets to me every day. But yeah, Dustin will be joining me next time. Dustin Putman will be joining me next time, so I can have someone else to talk to here instead of just talking out loud to nobody. I'm just talking out loud to nobody. So thank you, Dustin, for popping in. Thank you for joining me next time. But back to Fun City Editions. Let me close some of these tabs, actually, so I'm not losing track of where I am. So we have the movie Spike of Bensonhurst, 4K UHD Blu-ray. It's a limited edition site exclusive. Now, Fun City does do that a lot from time to time, where they will have website exclusive editions or just website exclusive titles, so you can only get it from their website. And other companies do this as well. They're not the first, and they're certainly not the last. And this is one of them. So let me read this here. This is an interesting movie. This is a Paul Morrissey film. To give you a little sense of what this movie entails. He's a wild, irresponsible, two-timing wise guy from Brooklyn, but you gotta love him. Spike Fumo, Sasha Mitchell, aspires to boxing glory and doesn't want to end up as a loser like his dad, who's taking a rap in Sing Sing for a local mob boss, Baldo Cacchetti, who's portrayed by Ernest Borgnine. Ernest Borgnine as a mob boss. When tough, handsome, and not very smart Spike hooks up with the mobster's blonde princess daughter, Angel, he angers Cacchetti and is banished from the Italian Bensonhurst to Puerto Rican Red Hook. How will Spike rebound after being bounced from the only turf he's ever known? Legendary New York filmmaker Paul Morrissey's satiric comedy is a wise and very funny send-up of Brooklyn Mafia community relation to the 1980s. Newly restored from its original 35mm camera negative, Spike of Bensonhurst makes its worldwide debut on 4K UHD and Blu-ray. There's no special features yet listed here on their website. I'm assuming those will be coming afterward. You do get artwork of what the looks like what the slipcover will look like, but you don't get any type of special features. And this movie is interesting. So, for right away, for those of you who don't know who Paul Morrissey is, an interesting kind of underground filmmaker. The two films that I know him from the most are Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula. Two films he directed in the 1970s, starring Udo Kier, I believe produced by Andy Warhol. He and Andy Warhol were friends. And those movies are kind of amazing. They're kind of nuts. Those are probably his two best films. This movie is interesting to say the least. Set in New York, this movie is probably one of the most unpolitically correct films I've ever seen. So much stereotype, racist language, so much cultural stereotyping, so much just cavalier language in this movie, and attitudes and all that stuff. And it's kind of comes off as comical, at least from looking at it from a modern perspective. But if you are someone who is very sensitive to harsh, racist, misogynistic, stereotypical language, this movie is probably not for you. I don't think Paul Morrissey's for you in general, because his movies are, he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn in his movies. Like I said, Ernest Borgnine as a mob boss is kind of inspired casting. I love Ernest Borgnine so much, and he is fascinating in this movie, to say the least, because Sasha Mitchell's character is a boxer at a local gym. He's kind of a big, dumb lug of a guy, not smart at all. He's like racist, misogynistic. He's like he's playing like a stereotype of what an Italian person is. Like kind of like what if Rocky was like a over the top stereotype, like a ridiculous comedic stereotype. Kind of like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever and Staying Alive. Kind of like that. And it's that's actually kind of more interesting the more that I think about it. And the movie itself isn't great. It's more of a fascinating look at like what this type of movie would look like in this era, at this time, in the late 80s. And yeah, I don't know what much more to say about the movie other than people who don't know who Sasha Mitchell is. Sasha Mitchell was an actor predominantly in the 90s. He got his start in the 80s on the show Dallas. And in the 90s, he was on the sitcom Step by Step. Step by Step was a sitcom from my childhood. TGIF was a big thing in my household on Friday nights. ABC had a legendary lineup of programming called TGIF. It's been long dead now, but Step by Step was one of the shows that was on Friday nights. And Sasha Mitchell played this lovable goofball of a nephew in this Brady Bunch-esque family, and he was the best character in the show. He was on the show for 5 seasons, and he wasn't in season 6, and he was in, like, 1 episode in season 7, which I think was the last season. So I think he showed up in, like, the last episode. And um, Sasha Mitchell was actually in movies as well. He was in Kickboxer 2 and 3 and 4. When I was a kid, my friend and I rented Kickboxer 2 from Blockbuster just because Sasha Mitchell was in it and we knew him from Step by Step. That's how big of a fan I was of Sasha Mitchell, because Sasha Mitchell, he's kind of like the prototypical what you would kind of want to be a lead actor in a movie. He was young, he was handsome, he was physically fit, hence why he was probably in those kickboxer movies. But he was never really like a great actor who could lead a movie, in my opinion. He did mostly B movies throughout his career. If you go and look at his IMDb, it's mostly B movies and then like Step by Step. That's kind of most of what his career was. Um, I think Dustin over here agrees with me. I had to do a Dustin says, I had to do a double take when I saw Sasha Mitchell's name in the synopsis. Remembered him instantly from Step by Step. Yeah, that's where I know him from. That's kind of all where I know him from, other than Kickboxer 2. What's interesting is I never saw Kickboxer 1 when I was a kid. I don't think I saw Kickboxer until I was an adult. But I think they tried to turn Sasha Mitchell into kind of a bigger star, and it just really never worked. Um, yeah, he doesn't do much acting now. I don't think he's acted in anything since 2019. I think I was looking at his IMDb. But if those of you who are 80s and 90s kids, you'll probably remember him from being on Dallas, and you'll remember him from being on Step by Step. Um, honestly, other than Suzanne Summers and who was the dad in that? Duffy? Those are the 2 major stars. Everyone else in that show really didn't do much afterward. Um, although one of the actors in that show, um, Jason Marsden, actually has had a long career doing voiceover for animated stuff. Jason Marsden was the voice of Max in a Goofy movie, and he's been doing voiceover work for a long time. He is also actually from here. He's from Rhode Island. He's actually from the town like next to mine. And Jason Marsden, I saw him at Rhode Island Comic Con several years ago. He was there, and he was doing an interview with somebody, and I walked by him like several times. Um, my cousin actually, like, because he was also like a dancer as well. Like he worked like he trained at a dance studio, a local dance studio, and my cousin trained at that same dance studio when she was younger. So very fascinating how this all kind of connected. But yeah, Jason Marsden, who was on Step by Step, he went on to do a lot of voiceover work. Even to this day, I think he's still doing voiceover work. And they brought him on just for like for a Goofy movie anniversary, actually, because he was the voice of Max. Um, Anywho, but yes, Sasha Mitchell's interesting. Like I said, Ernest Borgnine's in the movie. This movie's not great, but it's fascinating. It's more fascinating, if anything. It's definitely a B movie, underground movie. It definitely is. Um, it's ridiculous. It's kind of a ridiculous plot, ridiculous dialogue, not great acting. I'm curious what the special features are going to be on this release. I'm curious if they're going to get like someone to do a commentary or something like that, or to maybe write an essay for it. I would really like that. But yeah, this is the movie. I don't even know where I was. I got so distracted. Spike of Bensonhurst, which is getting a 4K release from Fun City Editions. Okay, now we are here at the grand finale. The grand finale being Criterion. Criterion dropped their June titles today, and they must know that June is my birthday month. My birthday is on June 17th, and they must know because they did it with, oh, do I have it here? Yes, I do. They did it with Pink Flamingos, and they're doing it again. I was so excited when I saw this today. I kind of got giddy. I got a little giddy, got a little giggly, got a little happy. I was kind of like Ron Swanson um in Parks and Recreation when he gets all giddy and starts running around. That was me around the house today because not one but two John Waters films are going to be released in June. We are going on June 23rd, and we're going to get Desperate Living and Hairspray. And a couple of years ago, also in June, my birthday month, they released Pink Flamingos. I always keep a copy of Pink Flamingos next to me for moral support because I need the extra John Waters Devil May Care energy to get me through the podcasting and all the recordings. I need all that. I need all that good stuff. And they've released a couple of John Waters films. They've released, I'm going to go get them. I'm going to go get them because if we're going to talk John Waters, we're going to go full tilt. All right, I decided to get all of my John Waters films off the shelf. So, I'm going a little crazy right now. You guys are gonna have to keep me. I gotta calm myself down, okay? Because let me go back to point here. Let me go back to point before. So we're not only getting one. We're getting two John Waters films, and amongst the other films that are also getting released there's an Eclipse series number 6, which is Carlos Saura's Flamenco trilogy. So I believe this is probably a Blu-ray re-release of that Eclipse series set. We are getting It Was Just an Accident. That is the Jafar Panahi film that came out last year. That was a critical success. It's honestly one of the best movies I watched last year. We are also getting a movie called High Art. We're getting a movie called Magellan. We're getting a movie. We're getting a release called West Indies: The Fugitive Slaves of Liberty. We're getting a 4K re-release of Charade, and we're getting a 4K re-release of 5 Easy Pieces. Now, back to John Waters, Desperate Living, and Hairspray. Now, let me get all my John Waters ducks in a row here. So, I got all my John Waters films. Let me put them in order. Let's see. Let me put Pink Flamingos where it's supposed to be. I got my OCD makes me put things in chronological order. So, I've got all of my John Waters films. I don't have every single one of his films. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, and I don't have every single one of his films. That's another one of the collecting misses that I have. So, I am missing actually my favorite John Waters film is Cecil B. Demented. Cecil B. Demented, which has a Blu-ray release from Umbrella, and I want to get the collector's edition, but I have to import that collector's edition from Umbrella's website from Australia, and it's kind of expensive for one movie. So I'm biding my time on that. But Criterion has put out several John Waters films. They put out Multiple Maniacs. They've put out Pink Flamingos, probably his most well-known film. They've put out Female Trouble, his follow-up to Pink Flamingos, which is probably even, I think, more raunchier, maybe, than Pink Flamingos. And then we have Polyester, starring Divine and Tab Hunter. And then we have Hairspray. So, Hairspray, this is the Blu-ray release that came out a few years ago from Warner Brothers. Now, they are putting out a Blu-ray, no, they're putting out a 4K release, actually, of this movie. They're putting on a 4K and a Blu-ray. This has been available on DVD. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. And this is probably John Waters' most accessible film. This is his PG film. All of his other movies, not really PG. And this is a movie starring Sonny Bono, Ruth Brown, Divine, Debbie Harry, Ricky Lake, Jerry Stiller. John Waters makes a cameo in this movie as the doctor. It's kind of amazing. But this movie famously got made into a Broadway musical. That Broadway musical then got turned into a movie starring Zac Efron in the 2000s, and was it the late 2000s? I think it was. That was a big hit of a movie, right? But this is the original John Waters film that the musical was based on, that movie was based on. After decades of pushing boundaries of bad taste with his underground provocations, John Waters found surprising mainstream success with this infectiously irreverent rock and soul comedy. It's 1962, and the only thing bigger than the bouffant hairdos are the popular dance crazes sweeping the nation. When Baltimore teen Tracy Turnblad, Ricky Lake, shoots to stardom on a local TV dance party, her radical self-confidence and support for racial integration launch a movement that takes the city by storm. Co-starring the inimitable Divine in a fiercely funny double role, Hairspray finds Waters marrying his wildly subversive sensibility with a newfound bubblegum sweetness for what may be his most irresistible film. Yeah, it's a film that I love. I love all of his films. I'm such John Waters to me is kind of everything. John Waters to me is not only is he one of my favorite filmmakers, he's just one of my favorite people in movies ever, one of my favorite persons ever, and it's just his movies mean a lot to me. So to get Hairspray on 4K from Criterion is kind of amazing. But I wanted to check and do a little comparison here. I wanted to do a comparison between this Blu-ray and special features wise. So for the special features for the Hairspray 4K UHD, there's a new 4K digital restoration supervised and approved by director John Waters with the 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. Alternate 5.1 DTS master audio soundtrack. That's probably from here. There's one 4K disc presented in Dolby Vision HDR and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. Audio commentary featuring Waters and actor Ricky Lake. New conversation between Waters and WFMU DJs Dave the Spaz Abramson and Gaylord Fields. New interview with Lake and actor Colleen Fitzpatrick. Reflections from actors Debbie Harry, Joanne Havrila, Leslie Ann Powers, Clayton Prince, Sean Thompson, and Pia Zadora. Deleted scenes, behind-the-scenes documentary, Get to Know John Waters from 1987, interview with production designer Vincent Peranio, and trailer. So that's a nice collection of special features. Now, this Blu-ray only lists this. It says special features include vintage interviews with John Waters, Ricky Lake, and Divine. So it doesn't really tell me if these special features are also on the Criterion or not. Let me do a quick double take here, see if I can get a little more information on these special features. See if I can actually get it. Okay. So, yeah, wow, they didn't list Diddley Squad on the back of this. Because if you go onto Blu-ray.com, there is a review of this Blu-ray, and it tells you a lot more. So, there's actually a wealth of extras on here. Okay, so this original Blu-ray actually does have quite a few extras, which is really nice. Let me list those off here. There it is. Commentary with writer and director and actress Ricky Lake. Okay, so that looks like that carries over. Get to Know, the 1987 interview with Waters by local reporter Denise Koch ran on the WJZ TV Baltimore. I think that carries over. Let's see, Vincent Peranio, Hairspray's production design. Rachel Talele, producing Hairspray. Original Hairspray featurette. Two of the original Buddy Dieners, Linda and Gene Schneider. Dennis Dermody, Sue Lowe, and Brooke Eaton, Divine in Memoriam. Sue Lowe, Peter Cooper, and Dennis Dermody, A Portrait of Cookie Miller. Bob Adams on the Dreamlanders, Close Circle of Friends. The Dreamlanders are basically John Waters' troupe of collaborators, actors, essentially. Dennis Dermody, Season's Greetings, Love John. This is Dermody reviews his collections of Waters' personalized Christmas cards and invitations. Ricky Lake, A Hairspray Reunion. And then there's audio only clips as well. So this was a stacked Blu-ray. This is a stacked Blu-ray. I don't think all of this has made the transition over to. Yeah, all of it, definitely all of this has not made the transition over to the Criterion. So some of it has, but not everything. No, not everything. So if you have this Blu-ray, hold on to this, because I don't think this Criterion has all the special features. Yeah, hold on to this. If you don't have this, you can still get this for relatively cheap. I've had this for several years. But moving over to the other John Waters Criterion release, we've got Desperate Living. So, following the unrepentant outrageousness of pink flamingos and female trouble, John Waters brought his notorious trash trilogy to a fittingly twisted close with this anti-fascist fairy tale after hysterical housewife Peggy Gravel, portrayed by Mink Stoll, murders her husband with the help of her fed-up housekeeper. The the newfound sisters in crime escape to the bizarro shanty town of Mortville, a depraved penal colony presided over by a despotic queen portrayed by Edith Massey, a unique person if there ever was one, whose tyranny pushes her subjects to shocking revolt. Deviant cops, death by dog food, DIY surgery, Waters unleashes all this and more in an once and relentlessly warped and oddly moral vision of queer rebellion. Excuse me. Excuse me. So, this movie does not star Divine, which is one of the only John Waters movies to not star Divine before their passing in the late 80s. And let's see what we have for special features. So, new 4K digital restoration supervised and approved by director John Waters with uncompressed monaural soundtrack, one 4K UHD disc of the film presented in HDR, and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. Audio commentary featuring John Waters and actor Liz Renee. Optional Italian dub track. New conversation between Waters and film programmer Christina Cacioppo. Back to Mortville, a tour of the film's main Baltimore location, led by Waters. New interview with actors Susan Lowe, Mary Vivian Pierce, and Mink Stoll. Interview with production designer Vincent Perenio. And the trailer, and of course there's an essay as well. I think Desperate Living has only been available on DVD, I'm pretty sure. So this is going to be a massive upgrade. Because this is a 4K UHD release, so this is going to be a massive upgrade. So yeah, we have Desperate Living, we have Hairspray. Awesome. Now let me get my wits about me and talk about some of these other releases. So let's go over to the Eclipse set, Eclipse Series 6 Carlos Saura's Flamenco Trilogy. One of Spanish cinema's great auteurs, Carlos Saura, brought international audiences closer to the art of his country's dance than any other filmmakers before or since. Let's see. In his flamenco trilogy, Blood Wedding, Carmen, and El Amor Brujo, Saura merged his passion for music with his exploration of national identity, all starring and choreographed by legendary dancer Antonio Gades. The films feature thrilling physicality and electrifying cinematography and editing, colorful paeans to bodies in motion, as well as cinema itself. So we've got Blood Wedding from 1981, we've got Carmen from 1983, we have El Amor Brujo from 1986. Let's see, we have some descriptions here for these movies. Carlos Saura began what would become his flamenco trilogy with this depiction of a single dress rehearsal for choreographer Antonio Gades' adaptation of the adaptation of poet and playwright Federico Garcia Lorca's tale of passionate revenge. No mere recording of a ballet, bodes Blood Wedding uses gripping camera work and heart-pounding rhythmic editing to evoke the experience of moving with the dancers every step of the way. Blood Wedding was released in 4K resolution by Mercury Films. Wait a minute, hold on. Is this just a Blu-ray? Yeah, just a Blu-ray. I had to double check there. It's a 2-disc set, so 3 films on 2 discs. Carmen, Carlos Sora's biggest international box office success, was this self-reflexive meditation on both Georges Bizet's popular opera Carmen and the original novella by Prosper Mérimée. Antonio Gades plays a choreographer who gets involved with his neophyte lead dancer and grows dangerously jealous, depicting the ups and downs of between in between rehearsals for Gades' ballet. Carmen is visually a hypnotic hall of mirrors in which the dancers become inseparable from their personas. Carmen was restored in 4K resolution by Mercury Films. See a bit of a theme here. Okay, so El Amor Brujo. The flamenco trilogy's most straightforward narrative is also its most forthrightly theatrical, a modern take on composer Manuel de Falla's Roma ballet, dressed up in pink sunsets, hellishly red fires, set in a dusty Andalusian village. El Amor Bruja is a seductive melodrama of a man whose beloved is haunted by the ghost of another. This was also restored in 4K resolution by Mercury Films as well. So that is the Eclipse series number 6, Carlos Sora's Flamenco trilogy. All right. Now we'll move on to It Was Just an Accident. Now this is a straight Criterion release. It's not a Janus Contemporaries or a Criterion premiere release. So It Was Just an Accident, which this is a really great film. This film is excellent. In this Palme d'Or winner from the Iranian author Jafar Panahi, a chance encounter sets in motion an urgent moral thriller. When a stranded driver walks into his shop, mechanic Vahid believes he has come face to face with Egbal, a notoriously brutal guard who tortured him during his political imprisonment. Gathering a band of fellow former inmates and other allies, Vahid sets out to take justice into his own hands, but does he have the right man? Shot in secret after Panahi's longtime ban from filmmaking in his home country, Iran, It Was Just an Accident is a tour de force of sustained tension and mordant humor, provocatively shifting perspectives to examine vital questions of trauma and revenge. Yeah, this movie is a moral quandary of a plot, moral quandary of a film, where this man believes he is encountering the prison guard who tortured him and several others while in political imprisonment. And he decides if he's going to take revenge on this person or not. What is he going to do? Does he have the right man, who vehemently denies that he is this person that this person is accusing him of? And also he goes to his friends who could either back up his claim or not back up his claim, or what advice are they going to give him about this situation? And the movie doesn't answer a lot of these tough questions. And how could one answer these tough questions? These are deeply moral questions that they are answering here, or having to deal with, rather. Great film, amazing film, great tension, great acting, great writing. It's one of those movies that'll make you hold your breath. Jafar Panahi is an excellent filmmaker. I believe this premiered at the Cannes Film Festival as well. So there is a new digital master approved by director Jafar Panahi with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack, one 4K UHD disc of the film, and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. New conversation between Panahi and filmmaker Ramin Barani. Cannes Film Festival press conference from 2025 featuring Panahi and members of the cast and crew. This is a brand new film, so I'm assuming this is going to look fantastic on 4K. Now, they have put out a Jafar Panahi film in the past. They put out No Bears, which got a what at the time was a Janus Contemporaries release. Now it would be under the Criterion Premieres release. I have it in my collection. It's probably No Bears. It's probably on that shelf up here behind me. And yeah, that's also another great film too. Let's see. So we've talked about those four. Let's go over to Magellan because I actually don't. This is one of the movies I have not seen. So I don't have a lot. I don't have anything to say about it. To be quite honest with you all, I've heard about it. Yeah, because it stars Gail Garcia Bernal. Hold on. Sometimes I forget what I've actually seen and not seen. So let me see if I've actually seen the movie or not. Let's see. How does one spell Magellan? That famous. Okay, so this is the movie from 2025. I have not seen it. I've heard about it though. Huh. Interesting. So let me see what it says here. A hypnotic journey engraved in images of staggering beauty and horror, this monumental achievement from Lav Diaz boldly rewrites the imperialist myth-making of the Age of Discovery. That's why Lav Diaz, I think he did a Criterion Closet video. That's why he was there. Okay, that makes sense now. Elegantly minimalist yet overpowering in its scale and impact, Magellan follows the 16th century Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, who was portrayed by Gael Garcia Bernal as he embarks on his epochal quest to cross the Pacific, a voyage that spirals into zealotry and violence when he attempts to impose Christianity upon the people of the Philippines. Abetted by Garcia Bernal's radically anti-heroic portrayal, Diaz composes a stark vision of brutality at the heart of the European conquest and a haunting elegy for a lost pre-colonial past. So this is a Criterion Premieres release. So the only special feature on here is Meet the Filmmakers Lav Diaz, a Criterion Channel original interview. Now, I want to see if I've seen any other Lav Diaz films. I have not. Okay. But I've heard of his work. And like I said, I think he did a Criterion Closet video recently. So this is something that's fascinating to me just because Magellan is an interesting, he's from the age of exploration. His whole deal was he was going to circumnavigate the globe. He was going to go all the way around the planet, or at least perceive what the planet was at that time. That was his thing. He didn't make it. He didn't make it. Needless to say, what's interesting about this movie is his last stop, I believe, was the Philippines. Okay. Not a spoiler. This is history. This is something you should have learned in elementary school. I also like how Magellan, like people use the name Magellan as an insult, actually, sometimes. But Magellan, I think they used the name when they started making GPS devices to put in your cars. One of the brands was Magellan. There was Garmin and there was Magellan. Anywho, people's cars come with GPSs now. Heck, we have GPSs on our phones, so those are kind of irrelevant. But that's the movie Magellan. Let's move on from there to High Art. So I didn't get to see this either. Like I said, these dropped today. These literally dropped like around noontime today while I was asleep. So I didn't get to see a lot of these, unfortunately. So this is let's see, when did this film come out? Oh, this is a movie from 1998. Because it said restored by UCLA. That's why I wanted to check when this came out. Okay. In a revelatory performance, Ali Sheedy stars in writer-director Lisa Cholodenko's debut feature, a wry and incisive look at the politics of the New York art scene, wrapped in the guise of an emotionally spiky queer romance. When Lucy Berliner, a once prominent photographer who has retreated into a life of heroin abuse with her faded actress lover, wow, so Ali Sheedy plays Lucy Berliner, and Patricia Clarkson plays the faded actress lover, is rediscovered by Radha Mitchell. Holy heck. is rediscovered by Sid Rada Mitchell in an up and coming as an up and coming editor at a photography magazine. Professional ambition and personal attraction become dangerously entwined, as it always does. Stripping away art world glamour to tell a seductive yet troubling story of complicated human connection, High Art stands as an essential work of both queer and 1990s independent cinema. So I'm a big fan of queer cinema. I will be watching this. I will be watching this. High Art was restored by the Academy Film Archive and the UCLA Film and Television Archive in conjunction with the Sundance Institute. Okay, I that's what I saw there. New 4K digital restoration. This is just a Blu-ray. New 4K digital restoration supervised and approved by director Lisa Cholodenko with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack, audio commentary from 2004 featuring the director, new conversation between the director and filmmaker Karen Kusama. I'm a big fan of Karen Kusama. Karen Kusama is a good director. I really like Karen Kusama's work. I gotta get more Karen Kusama's work in my collection, but I'm a big fan of Karen Kusama. A new interview with actors Ali Sheedy and Rada Mitchell and photographer Jojo Wilden. Dinner Party, which is a short film by the director, and then English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, plus an essay as well. So that is the movie High Art. I really want to watch this movie. I would have watched all of these ones that I hadn't seen, you know, had I had more time. But next up here is West Indies, The Fugitive Slaves of Liberty. Let's see. I want to see. Okay. I didn't know if this was multiple films or just one film. Um, Mauritanian firebrand Med Hondo puts colonialism itself on trial in this one-of-a-kind musical spectacular, a collective effort of unprecedented scale and ambition that provided a watershed event in African cinema. Aboard an enormous mock slave ship, Hondo stages a series of imaginative reenactments and intricately choreographed dance numbers that trace the devastating effects of French imperialism across centuries of enslavement and injustice. Beyond mere extravaganza, West Indies, The Fugitive Slaves of Liberty, is a stirring call to Pan-African independence and a dazzling yet critical reconception of an entire people's history of oppression and rebellion. Now, this is only a Blu-ray release. There's a new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed binaural soundtrack, new interview with African cinema scholar Abu Bakar Sanago, program featuring archival interviews with director Med Hondo, excerpted archival interview with cinematographer Francois Catone, as well as trailers, plus an essay in the booklet as well. Yeah, that sounds fascinating to me. Um, I I really want to check that out. Now we've got the two re-releases. Okay, so we'll start with one of my favorite movies, in Charade. Now, Charade has been part of the Criterion collection for a long time. This Blu-ray has been this Blu-ray the Blu-ray specifically has been in the Criterion collection since 2010. I bought this probably 2011, 2012. I have it. Um, it's yet again, it's down yonder on the shelf. I was gonna grab it, but it's down yonder on the shelf. Now, this is one of those Blu-rays that doesn't have any special features. It's got like one feature. Let me look to so I'm not lying to you all. Yeah, it's got one feature plus a booklet. That was it. This movie's been released by Universal on Blu-ray. It was one of those. Okay, so this is what happened to give people a little context here. Universal has been one of those companies similar to Sony that has put out their own versions of their movies on Blu-ray and other formats and stuff, and then will license them out. They've done that several times. They've done it with A Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. They put out a Blu-ray. They also uh, gave it to Criterion to put out their own Blu-ray. They've done it here once again with Charade. With Charade, they put out their own Blu-ray, and they gave it to Criterion to put out their Blu-ray. So they've done it both ways. Unfortunately, the Criterion Blu-ray only had a commentary, and I think it's only just a commentary here. But the best thing about Charade is the movie itself. The movie stars two of my all-time favorites. So I'm biased. I'm biased. I will admit it. Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. This is one of Cary Grant's last films. I think it's his second to last movie, and then he just retired. He retired actually not super young, but he retired like 20 something years before he passed away, and he, I guess was kind of done. Let's see. This was his third to last movie. So he did Charade in 1963, he did Father Goose in 1964, and then he did Walk Don't Run in 1966. Um, Now I know Father Goose has a Blu-ray from Olive Films. It actually has a Olive Signature Edition, I believe, that's now out of print, that I've been wanting to get. But anywho, um, this is his third to last film, and he has such wonderful on-screen chemistry with Audrey Hepburn. I adore Audrey Hepburn so damn much. Um, yeah. So in this comedic thriller, a trio of crooks relentlessly pursue a young American played by Audrey Hepburn in gorgeous Givenchy through Paris in an attempt through gorgeous Givenchy. Givenchy's a place in France. Through Paris in an attempt to recover the fortune. No, Givenchy. Hold on. Let me read this again. I'm getting too tired here. My eyes are starting to go on me, actually. In this comedic thriller, a trio of crooks relentlessly pursue a young American played by Audrey Hepburn in gorgeous Givenchy through Paris in an attempt to recover the fortune her dead husband stole from them. The only person she can trust is Cary Grant's suave, mysterious stranger. Director Stanley Donen goes deliciously dark for Charade, a glittering emblem of 1960s style and macabre wit. Yeah, it's like a neo-noir caper of a movie where these with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, and they're running around, and people are after them, pursuing them, and they've got to escape, and all kinds of stuff. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. But this edition here, it's a 4K edition, so we're going from Blu-ray to 4K. New 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack, one 4K UHD disc of the film, and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. Unfortunately, the only special feature is that same audio commentary that was on the Blu-ray. Audio commentary from 1999 featuring director Stanley Donen and screenwriter Peter Stone. That is the same exact one. It's actually, let's see, that commentary was exclusively recorded for Criterion in 1999 with director Stanley Donen and screenwriter Peter Stone. It's the same audio commentary that was on the DVD release of Charade. And that's it. And I'm pretty sure it's the same booklet as well. So unfortunately, nothing new, which kind of sucks. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, you could get fans to talk about this movie, just cinephiles to talk about this movie. Hell, I would do it for free. I would do it for free. I wouldn't care. you know, but anywho, if you already own the Charade Blu-ray, I don't think necessarily you have to run out to get this, because all you're getting is the movie on 4K. Now, let's go over to 5 Easy Pieces, and I think that will be the last thing that we talk about here. So, 5 Easy Pieces is the movie starring Jack Nicholson. He was nominated for an Oscar for this film. Not the first time he was nominated for an Oscar. I believe he was nominated also for Easy Rider. So, following Jack Nicholson's breakout supporting return in Easy Rider, director Bob Rafelson devised a powerful leading role for the new star in the searing character study 5 Easy Pieces. Nicholson plays the now iconic cad Bobby Dupia, a shiftless 30-something oil rigger and former piano prodigy immune to any sense of responsibility, who returns to his upper-middle-class childhood home, blue-collar girlfriend who is Karen Black, who was nominated for an Oscar for the film. In tow, to see his estranged ailing father moving in its simplicity and gritty in its textures, Five Easy Pieces is a lasting example of early 1970s American alienation. This is a film with a capital F. This is Jack Nicholson in his prime. The 70s Jack Nicholson is pretty elite. He's pretty elite. He would obviously go on to win an Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I happen to have right next to me, and he would, of course, he would win, I think, for Terms of Endearment. But let me check. Actually, I always forget these things. I should. Like you guys can tell, I never look this stuff up beforehand. I always look it up. I always rely on my own knowledge, which I also don't trust. I both trust it and don't trust it at the same time. But Jack Nicholson has won a couple of Oscars, and I want to say he's won for. Let's see, he's won 3 Oscars. He's won for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's won for Terms of Endearment. Let's see. Yep, there. Yep. What's the third? Oh, As Good as It Gets. You guys, I'm struggling here. I didn't even need to look it up. As Good as It Gets. That's his third Oscar. I was wondering what his third Oscar was. I always forget about that movie. But Five Easy Pieces has been a Criterion staple for a long time. Now, for me personally, I'm gonna get a little deep here, so please excuse me. We do have some time. We're a little over 3 hours, but whatever. One of my first ever Criterion purchases, and I will actually tell you guys when I actually purchased this because I can look it up right now, is the box set America Lost and Found, the BBS story. And I bought this box set in April of 2011. And this was one of the first Criterions I'd ever bought. I bought it completely blind. Did not know anything about this other than it looked interesting. I had heard of Easy Rider, vaguely heard of Easy Rider. I knew who Dennis Hopper was because by that point I had seen Blue Velvet. So I know who Dennis Hopper was. I know who Peter Fonda was, I think, by that point. Jack Nicholson, of course, I had known, but I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what the BBS was. I didn't know what these movies were. And these movies changed my life. They changed my my perception of cinema. This box set here, I think, is one of the most essential and vital Criterion releases ever. And I recommend anybody to buy it. Now, unfortunately, some of the releases in here have been released individually, and some of them have gotten better editions, including Five Easy Pieces. So this box set's a little out of date, but I still think, like I've talked about this, the Last Picture Show has gotten various releases after this. This is an older box set. This box set came out in 2010, so it's a bit out of date. But man, if you're just starting out as a Criterion collector, this is one of the first things you've got to get. It really is. So, yeah, so many of these movies in here have gotten individual releases over the years. Let me actually see if I can find the individual releases here on Criterion's website. So I know obviously Five Easy Pieces has gotten its own release. The Last Picture Show has gotten its own release. Easy Rider, I know, has gotten releases before, but I don't know if it's gotten. Has it gotten a standalone? I don't think it's gotten a standalone Criterion. It has not. But it has gotten a 4K release in the UK, though. That's interesting. Didn't know that. But like Kingdom Marvin Gardens, I don't think has gotten its own release. I think it's really mostly just Last Picture Show and Five Easy Pieces have really been the ones that have gotten there's separate like kind of more deluxe Criterion releases. Let me go back to Five Easy Pieces actually. Um, we'll just roll with that. Ba-ba-ba-bum. I do want to do a little comparison to this release. So new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack, one 4K UHD disc of the film presented in Dolby Vision HDR, and one Blu-ray with the film and special features. Audio commentary by director Bob Rafelson and interior designer Toby Rafelson. Soul Searching in Five Easy Pieces, a 2009 program featuring Bob Rafelson. BBS Story, a documentary about the legendary film company BBS Productions with Rafelson actors Jack Nicholson, Karen Black, Ellen Burstyn, uh, filmmaker Peter Bogdanovich, and Henry Jaglom, and others. That is must watch. You gotta watch it. I implore you, or you gotta watch that documentary. It's incredible. Documentary featuring critic David Thornton, and historian Douglas Brinkley. Audio excerpts from a 1976 AFI interview with Rafelson. If this is kind of Five Easy Pieces, I think, is a must-own Criterion in any of its forms. And let me just take this. Yeah, so obviously the 4K is going to have a much better transfer than this. So this old Blu-ray here that I have has a high definition restore that has new restored high definition digital transfers supervised by director of photography Laszlo Kovacs. There's an audio commentary with Bob Rafelson and interior designer Toby Rafelson. Soul Searching in Five Easy Pieces, 2009 video piece. Yep, same thing. The BBS documentary from 2009. And then I don't think it's got. It says audio excerpt from a 1976 AFI interview with Rafelson, which let me see if that's on here. My eyes are really starting. I can't see. Yep, that's on here. I want to go and I want to check because they released this on single DVD, like a single DVD, single Blu-ray, like I said years ago, and I don't know if that had a new transfer or not, or if it was the same transfer that was on that Blu-ray from 2010. So back in 2015, I know they released Five Easy Pieces by itself. Check out. I'm just quickly checking out the. Okay. Okay, so it was the same transfer, I think, as that one. Either way, the 4K is going to look better. It's Five Easy Pieces. It's an essential Criterion film. Um, and that documentary on it itself as a special feature is worth buying it if you don't already own it, obviously. But that's kind of it here. I'm starting to get starting to wane. Dustin, if you're still out there, next time you're probably gonna have to carry me through half the episode next time. But next time, speaking of, but let me wrap up Criterion, and we'll talk about next time. Can't even see. Okay. So, wrapping up Criterion, we've got these are all coming out in June. We have Eclipse Series 6, Carlos Sora's Flamenco Trilogy. We have It Was Just an Accident, the Jafar Panahi film. We have two John Waters films that are both getting 4K releases in Desperate Living and Hairspray. We have the movie Magellan that's getting a Criterion Premieres release. And we've got High Art. We've got West Indies, The Fugitive Slaves of Liberty. And we have two 4K UHD upgrades from Criterion Blu-rays in Charade, the Stanley Donen film, as well as Five Easy Pieces. Two, I would say, essential Criterions. Well, Five Easy Pieces is essential. Charade, I just love so much because of Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, two of my all-time favorites. So that is it from Criterion. And that is it for Chasing Labels, number 186, spine number 186. But next time, we meet, which will be in 2 weeks, which will be March 30th. If you can join me, I will have a co-host tentatively. Things change, whatever the case may be. And our good friend Dustin, um, and he will be here to help me talk about these movies, talk about these releases. We'll see what will be available at that time. My assumption is we will have indicator releases to talk about. We will have arrow releases to talk about. We will have perhaps Eureka releases to talk about. Perhaps Imprint. We haven't. I don't think Imprint's dropped anything. Maybe Umbrella as well. We shall see. We shall see what will happen in the next 2 weeks or so. Also, between then and now, there will be another episode of the Unwatched Pile. Hold on, let me get my calendar on my phone to actually confirm when that is happening. I never remember these things. So on Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, what are we on? Daylight savings time now? Who really knows? There will be an Unwatched Pile episode. That is Sunday the 29th. And then the 31st, actually, nothing on the 31st, 'cause, but on the 30th will be the live stream for Chasing Labels episode number 187. Also here on Chasing Labels, we just did Movies Down Memory Lane. Our most recent episode was on Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Our next episode of Movies Down Memory Lane will be on Blade Runner, the Ridley Scott film, one of my all-time favorite movies. And also, what else is there? Oh, check out Movie Mutations. We just shot our season finale of Movie Mutations, but there are several episodes available to watch right now. That is our movie-related game show where we take a beloved movie and it gets manipulated and changed by our contestants to something completely different. Sometimes something ridiculous. Yeah, so that is everything we have here on Chasing Labels. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Whether you're watching live stream, whether you're listening on the audio, that is available through Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. There's also the audio is available here on YouTube too. So check out everything we've got going here on Chasing Labels. Check out the recent interviews that we've done. Also, there will be Criterion reviews coming up this week. I want to mention that because I have in my hands the 4K UHD of Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. So there will be a review of this up on the channel this week. So keep tuned in for that. I will be talking about this release. And that's what I will be doing this week. We'll be watching Killers of the Flower Moon, all 206 minutes of it. So that's what I have to look forward to. I've already seen the movie, but I do want to rewatch it just so I can give you guys a fresh take on it, as well as tell you how it looks on 4K UHD. So keep tuned in for that. So thank you all once again for all the support, and hey, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.